And welcome in to the weekend sports kickoff. I'm Devin Albertson, joined by Trevor Maeder, Jacob Blair, and Ryan Elliott. As we're not going to start with Bearcat Athletics today, we're going to switch things down around a little bit. So we're going to have Isaiah Swan hopefully on here around 3 o'clock. We'll see.
I bet our graphics guy Joe is just thrilled that you switched the rundown about 15
minutes.
Yeah,
what was with the last minute changes?
We wanted Isaiah on at 2 o'clock, but he has stuff going on until about 3.
Did we really, though?
Yes, we do. We haven't had Isaiah on all semester. We'd miss Isaiah.
This is only the third show of the semester. It's not like it's been...
After 4, you can say all semester.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Trevor? Your mic's already about to come off. All right, we are literally a minute.
Man, that might be a record. That's got to be.
We already know we're going to fire you at 4. So.
Yeah.
So we're just going to start with the NFL championship games that happened last week, and just go over them real quick and give our thoughts. Of course, last week, I don't think any of us were perfect in last week's thing. I know I went 1-1. I picked the Patriots and the Vikings.
Yeah, we were all terrible.
Did you even take the Eagles?
Some of us went 0-2, like myself.
Did you take the Eagles?
No, I took the Vikings.
Did we all take the Vikings?
Did we all go 0-2?
Yes.
I went 1-1.
So I wasn't the only one that went 0-2.
I am an unhappy 1-1 though.
Yeah, well, that's probably how my Super Bowl pick's going to be. So I could very easily be an unhappy 1-0.
Yeah.
Just like last year.
What did you guys think of the first game? Of course, Jaguars, Patriots, 24-20 win for New England in Foxborough. They were down early, but outscored the Jacksonville 14-3 in the fourth quarter for the win.
I love Doug Marrone. I think he's maybe the most underrated coach in the NFL. But I think they got maybe a little bit too conservative in the second half of that game. The one drive that really sticks out to me is I want to say it was maybe their first drive of the second half where Jacksonville's offense is built around getting some yardage on first down to make second and third down manageable. Mm-hmm. Well, they had an incomplete pass on first down. Then Fournette got stuffed on second down. So you're setting up a 3rd and 9 situation. There's just not a lot of Jacksonville doesn't flow well in those situations, so they end up punting, and the New England's able to keep it a game from there. And I just kind of felt like maybe they let off the gas pedal a little bit, not taking it away from Tom Brady. I mean, the greatest quarterback of all time being on the other side probably doesn't help that either. But it just felt like the Jacksonville was a tale of two halves for the Jaguars.
Tom Brady just won't freaking die.
No, or retire.
It's ridiculous.
I'd rather have him retire than die.
And
it's a toss-up.
No,
I'm kidding.
I would much rather.
not literally die. I mean, he's not dead, which, I mean, that's obvious. But anyway, I'm going to get, if I'm not careful, I'm going to get
in trouble.
He is going to play till he's 75.
Probably.
Oh, yeah.
And it's what's interesting is Tom Brady has found a way to play the least physical game at quarterback of anybody in the NFL.
Well, I think once you get to Tom Brady's age and experience, you play from the neck up.
Well, really, yeah. And so here's the thing. Brady doesn't really get hit. I know he got hit Sunday, but he takes maybe 2-3 of those hits a year compared to the 10 or 15 that most quarterbacks take. He doesn't move. He can't run. He certainly can't throw on the run.
But you look at the 3 guys that have had success when they're pushing their 40s, other than Brett Favre, and that's just because Brett Favre was a gunslinger. Brady, Breeze, Peyton Manning, all kind of that same mold where they play from the neck up. They don't move around a lot. They don't take a lot of hits.
And really, the other thing with Brady is he doesn't have a monster arm.
No.
He's got beautiful touch.
That's why
he's got incredible touch. But he does not have a great arm. His arm talent is not elite.
No.
His head talent is elite. His touch is elite.
And I think that's what makes him great. It's how many guys have had great arms? And, Kyle Bowler had a great arm.
Jay Cutler
had a great arm. But when that arm is thrown to guys in quadruple coverage 40 yards downfield, that arm isn't really that great.
Right. And so that's where I think you run into Brady just has found a way to work a system to where he doesn't have to just throw 50-yard rockets, to whoever he needs to go to. He's worked out a way to kind of build the system to where all he's got to do is put the ball in the right spot, and they're in business.
And the thing with Brady is if you give him a clean pocket, he can stand back there all day, and he's going to find the open guy or he's going to make the open guy. I mean, I think back to that 3rd and 18 play they had on the go-ahead drive. The thing that Tom Brady will hurt you with is if you let him step into that pocket and climb the ladder, so to speak. And if I'm Jackson in that situation, why not, if I'm not sending a blitz, why not at least show a blitz? Maybe kind of throw him off.
Because where Jacksonville is so strong is up the middle. Their pressure up the middle, and they didn't run pressures up the middle. They ran a lot of twist plays, getting the D tackles outside. They ran a lot of, but they didn't run any middle linebacker blitzes. They didn't run anything like that. And the key to stopping Tom Brady is bringing pressure up the middle. If you can bring pressure up the middle and force him to get outside of the pocket, Tom Brady can't throw on the run.
No, he's not Aaron Rodgers.
No.
I mean, those are two different animals. If you don't let him climb that ladder, if you make him go this way instead of this way, you're opening up your defense a lot more. And they did a good job of that in the first half, I thought. And in the second half, maybe some of it was Tom Brady taking over.
I think a lot of it was fatigue. And the interior of the Patriots' offensive line did a really good job in the second half. I'll give them that. But I think, the inside of the Jaguars' defensive line was shot.
Yeah.
When Jacksonville goes back and watches this game, I think they're going to have to wonder how they lost this game, because they won in almost every statistical category in this game. The only one they really didn't win was penalties. There's a couple, big pass interference penalties, but first downs they were equal. They had 30 more total yards. They were better on third down. They had the ball for 9 more minutes than the Patriots. Jacksonville did everything they needed to do to win this game, and they didn't win it.
I think when they question themselves, I think where they can begin to question themselves is when you have 55 seconds left in the first half and 2 timeouts. And you need, I mean, even in that situation, run the ball once. If you get 12 or 14 yards, guess what? You're at the 40-yard line. Burn that timeout. Then you can run another play and get another 10 yards, and then you're shooting for the out-of-bounds lines. Get yourself in field goal range. They had plenty of time to maybe at least go down and get 3.
You talked about that, and they looked at it this year. No team with about a minute to go with 2 timeouts took a knee at the end of the first half. Like, no team all year long through 17 weeks and plus the playoffs has done that. And the Jacksonville Jaguars in the AFC Championship game decided, you know what, we're going to play it conservative here and just go into halftime, rest on our laurels in this first half. And that's just like, you're playing New England. No lead is big enough.
Yeah.
Like, no lead is big enough. They found that out the hard way with losing that second half lead.
And that's funny that no team has done that because this year until then, because up until this year, that sounds like exactly something that Andy Reid would have done in Kansas City. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's done it before. Just kind of cash in before the end of the half, which, I mean, I can... And
it's all just not trusting Blake Bortles in the end of the half.
No,
that's what it is.
And that's what it is. And I can understand to an extent they knew they were getting the ball back and they felt confident with where their offense was going. But at the same time, points are points, man. I mean, even if you can get 3 points there, then you're going into halftime up 7 instead of up 4. So, I mean, they didn't trust Blake Bortles there on that, and it was kind of evident. And Blake Bortles played a really good game to the game plan.
Well, and that's where I think Jacksonville has got to be disappointed, is that you have won games all year where Blake Bortles didn't have to play. Didn't have to play quarterback, and when he did, he didn't play very well, but you still were able to win ball games. Blake Bortles played really well in this ball game.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got to be really disappointed if you're Jacksonville and you didn't take advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you have to take advantage of when Blake Bortles plays the way that he did. Because he was fantastic, especially in the first half. He was throwing the ball great.
And I think not only was he throwing the ball great, I think the plays were schemed great.
Yes.
I mean, because Doug Marrone, I think the one thing Doug Marrone did really, really well is he knows Blake Bortles isn't a guy that you want throwing the ball deep 20, 30 times a game. So, I mean, they'll take shots occasionally, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But a lot of it's kind of, I call it the Oreo offense, because it's kind of like dink and dunk, 7 yards here, 6 yards here, 8 yards here. And the good thing about that, too, is you chew up a lot of clock as well, which they didn't do very well in the second half.
And I think one of the things you saw from Jacksonville was a little bit of a separation from that dink and dunk play at times, because there were a lot of 20, 14, 18, 25, 26, 31 from Bortles. And he was making throws that great quarterbacks make.
I didn't expect from Bortles.
He was making that, that little 8-yard and out. That's a ridiculous throw in the NFL.
Well, and he made
That's
he made one on his run too that I remember thinking,
on the flea flicker.
Yeah, that I was like, man, how did he? I mean, that was a heads up play on him, and I've always felt like I will never try to argue that Blake Bortles is a Pro Bowl quarterback or anything like that, because that would just be absurd. But I've always thought he's got maybe a little bit bad of a rap, and I think maybe that championship game proved Blake Bortles is not a guy that's going to win you Super Bowls by himself. I compare him to kind of Alex Smith until this year. The same narrative on Blake Bortles is the narrative that's been on Alex Smith up until this year. He's not going to win you Super Bowls by himself. If you build a right team around him, he can get you in that situation. And that's kind of the same for Alex Smith. Do I think Alex Smith's as good as Blake Bortles? Absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. I'd like to think that they would look elsewhere, and who knows where Bortles goes.
Just because I think part of it is if it was a reasonable salary, they bring him back, but it's $19 million next year.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
So here's what I think with Bortles. I think either the Jaguars' options are find somebody in the market, whether it's trading or free agent market, or you draft a quarterback and let them learn from Blake Bortles. Because long term, Blake Bortles isn't your answer in Jacksonville. He's not going to be the guy that's going to take you over the top.
Because next year's the last year in his fifth-year option.
He's the guy that's going to get you to where, okay, now all we need is a quarterback. You know, and
they might already be there.
Right.
I would say right now that they're already there. I mean, if they go out and get, I don't know about Eli Manning because who knows how much he's got left in the tank. But say
Pat Shurmur likes him in New York.
But say they go out and get Alex Smith. That team might be the favorite for the AFC. If Alex Smith from 2017 plays in 2018 and like in Jacksonville, that might be the AFC favorite.
So there's that option. There's the Alex Smith option. There's maybe the Kirk Cousins option. There's those kind of guys out there. One of the Minneapolis or one of the Minnesota quarterbacks, whichever one they decide to lose. But I think the big thing will be if they don't decide to do that, they're going to have to sit through 1 year of, we'd be Super Bowl contenders if our quarterback wasn't Blake Bortles, or if we had a quarterback that when the pressure was on, we could count on to throw for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns if we needed to.
We feel your pain, Jacksonville.
Even with Bortles next year, though, they're still going to be contenders for the Super Bowl. They might not be favorites, but they're going to be contenders. With that defense, they keep those guys together and keep working. They're going to be Super Bowl contenders.
I understand that part of it, but also if you look at the division next year, it's going to be a lot better because Watson will be healthy. If Luck gets healthy, you have 3 legit quarterbacks in that division, and it may not be. They still might be a good team, but their path will be so much more difficult.
I think they're the best team in the AFC South overall.
I don't know.
You look at the Colts. What do they have besides Andrew Luck?
Luck doesn't matter.
That roster is bad. The Titans. Decent. We'll see how they do with Mike Vrabel. I really like Mike Vrabel, and I like that hire.
Well, but you're also saying the Colts are also hiring Josh McDaniels, who learned from the Smiths in Denver.
How Josh McDaniels do in Denver?
I think he's going to learn from that, and he's got Andrew Luck now.
But everyone said Eric Mangini would learn from his mistakes in New York, and he sucked in Cleveland as well. So
that's Cleveland.
That'll be interesting to see. And then you got the wild card is Houston. I mean, if Deshaun Watson plays like he did the first 5 or 6 games this season, and their defense stays healthy, they could very easily win the AFC South next year.
Well, and that's where I think that you look at Jacksonville, and I think for them to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender, they need a quarterback that can compete with Andrew Luck, that can go out and compete with Big Ben, that can go out and compete with Tom Brady, that can go out and compete with those guys.
Smith.
And that may be the answer. It may be. Kirk Cousins may be the answer. As you mentioned, Case Keenum could be the answer, or the answer could be draft a guy the guys that are going to fall to them are Lamar Jackson, who I think's got the talent to be an NFL quarterback.
Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph. You get one of those 2 guys. You get one of those 2 guys, and you wait it out for 1 more year with Blake Bortles, and then you tell him, okay, kid, this is your team.
Well, and here's the thing, too, guys. Let's think about this. We're going to kind of see a changing of the torch in the AFC here in the next year or 2.
Hopefully.
Because realistically, how many years does Tom Brady have left?
15.
The Patriots manage to get a hold of another franchise quarterback.
Realistically, I say Brady's got next year, maybe 1 more. Realistically.
2 years.
Still never gets hit. Who knows how long he could.
That's true.
But it could take 1 hit. I mean, Peyton Manning didn't get hit a lot in Indianapolis.
No, that's true.
He still had neck surgery. I mean, how many years Big Ben got left? I think this year's probably his last year, and assuming he comes back.
I thought this year was probably going to be his last year.
Too.
Caleb says 3. Our Steelers fan over the other room.
You really think he's got 3 years left?
Mr. Antonio Brown jersey wearing over there. Yeah, he's maybe a little biased there and hopeful for Pittsburgh.
Have you seen how many hits he takes?
He is brutalized, and he also talked about retirement this year.
That's when their offensive line is actually getting called for holding. Have you seen how many hits he takes? He takes a lot of hits.
Let's go back to the championship game real quick. And I know a lot was made after the game. I don't want to make it blame the officials because I think New England won that game late. But they're just every once in a while, I don't like the pass interference where you just throw it up deep and just say, well, it's either going to be a catch or it's going to be a little bit of contact. We're going to throw the flag for its pass interference. Like the first one I thought was really questionable on the sideline. I thought the corner had position. And I know they were hand fighting both ways, so I wouldn't have called it because Cooks was pushing him as well. It was pushing Boye.
That was the one before the end of the first half, right?
Yes, and then the second one, it was they threw it up deep,
terrible.
And Brady threw it about 10 yards short. So Cooks came back to the ball, and of course Ramsey's trying to catch him. They're going to be contact, and they just throw the flag to bail him out. And I just don't like rewarding a crappy throw with a penalty. I just don't like doing that.
The first one, if I remember correctly, I was kind of on the fence with. I'm not normally, unless it's blatant, I'm not a big fan of pass interference calls. And I like pass interference calls the same way I look at like charges. Unless it's obvious, I don't really care for them. But the second one, when I saw that, like you said, Cooks came to a stop right in front of Ramsey. There was nothing Ramsey could do.
Right.
And I was like, are you kidding me?
By the letter of law, it's a penalty. I just don't like the way the flag is thrown there because it's like, what else is he supposed to do? I know he's maybe turn around, he's on a penalty, but when you're trying to chase a guy like that, it's happened so quick. So I see why they threw the flag. I just don't like rewarding crappy throws like that. And you saw the other one with the hit on Gronk. They got the 15-yard penalty. And yes, it was a little bit high, but at the same point, you're trying to hit Gronk.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be. Would Gronk rather you take out his knee? And then if he would take out his knee and been towards ACL, he's labeled a dirty player forever because he took out Gronk's knee. I mean,
yeah. And I think you look at this game, and obviously, you can't blame the officials because if you are Jacksonville, you can't put yourself in that situation.
you know you're not gonna get the extra call. You know you're not gonna get the favorable call there.
You can't put yourself in that situation, but when you get through an entire football game and a team has one penalty
on a kickoff,
having
Yeah.
played a lot of football in my day, that's impossible. That is literally
So
impossible.
That actually brings me to my question for you guys. Do any of you guys actually, because I hear a lot of people saying, oh, well, the NFL's obviously rigged. Do any of you guys actually believe any of that?
I don't think
No.
it's rigged. I think certain teams get some favorable calls,
Here's-
but it's not rigged. Like
here's my
it leans one way or the other, but it's not rigged.
I think that in the NFL, if you actually sit down unbiasedly and watch, say, a Chiefs
Steelers
Jets game, something like that, where you don't hate their team or anything, but say you watch a Chiefs Jets game, chances are there's probably just about as many calls the Jets get away with that the Chiefs get away with.
Yeah.
Chances are. I think the thing now with New England is we've kind of subconsciously got it in our mind that anytime we see something that should be a penalty against New England that's not called, we just automatically assume, oh, the NFL is rigged or the refs want New England. When you can look at other plays, too, that I can't think of any off the top of my head in the Jacksonville game, but that have gone the other way that maybe Jacksonville got away with or something like that. So, I don't know. I think maybe playing at Foxborough is kind of like playing at Cameron or Allen Fieldhouse. They're going to get more calls than they get against them.
and you know that going in.
With
Yes.
Right.
with the Patriots, you've also got to remember this is the best coached team in the NFL. They're not going to commit a lot of penalties anyways. It just seems that maybe they get away with the few that they do commit during the game.
Yeah.
I liked what Miles Jack said when he was told about the penalty discrepancy of this game. He just said it's interesting. It's interesting. It's self-explanatory. It's interesting. He didn't say anything about it. Just
Right.
It's interesting.
Well,
and
yeah. When a team comes out of a game with one penalty overall, clearly there were calls missed. But to say that was intentional, who knows? It's possible it could have been. It's possible it could have just been something in the back of the ref's mind that goes, this is the New England Patriots, this is Tom Brady, whatever. But at the same time, again, yeah, when you come out of a game as a team and you've only got one penalty, that's where you go.
It's where the Patriots
something
are
was missed.
so well coached that they're only maybe committing 6 penalties the entire game, and we know penalties go missed every single NFL game.
I would say I'm a proponent of there's at least one hold on every play in the NFL.
Yes.
Can we, like, I always love when
There is.
when
There
I'm
really
when
is.
I'm watching. I love when I'm watching a game with someone that's a fan of another team. Say Caleb and I are together watching a Chiefs Steelers game, and I'll call out every single hold that Pittsburgh gets away with, or vice versa. And I have friends that go, well, there's holding on every play, but it's not called. Couldn't we maybe change that narrative by just calling holding on every play?
Yeah,
And then maybe,
I mean, you could.
because to me that's kind of a stupid way of looking at it. When people are like, oh, there's holding on every play, they just don't call it. No, if you call it on every play, eventually maybe guys are going, man, I should
Because
really not hold.
There really is. I mean, if you watch game footage, if you watch the all 22 of every snap from every game in the NFL, I guarantee you'll
find
that
something wrong.
90% of plays you'll look and you go, oh, that's a hold.
And Trevor, it's a good point. And you need to call holding maybe a little more often to get guys to come back.
Absolutely.
But if they get away with it, they're going to get away with it.
Yeah.
You give an inch to take a mile. But one thing I want to say, if you and Caleb watching the Steelers-Chiefs game, he's going to come away happy and you're going to come away disappointed. It happens every time. So
that's So, but how many snaps does an offensive lineman normally take in a game? 70-ish? 75? Say you take 75 snaps in a game. Okay, if you only get called for a team, if you only get called maybe 3 times for holding, but you held all 75 times, that's 4% of your plays you got called for holding. That means 96% of the time you got away with it.
I think
so
the other
obviously
problem
teams are going to do it.
Is maybe, to me, I think maybe we need to narrow the definition of holding. Because a lot of times, guys
does it affect the play?
You get the hand on the outside on the shoulder pad, and you drive up.
And that's
when you drive up with your hand, that's holding every time, whether they call it or not. That's by rule holding. You get your hand under the shoulder pads and drive up. You get your hands away from your body. Even if you've got them on the chest plate, if you get your hands away from your body, and they're running away from you, they see that jersey pull. That's holding.
Yep.
They see that chest plate pull out. That's
holding.
It's
like you go back to the Steelers-Chiefs game last year where James Harrison, and I think it probably was holding.
Oh, it absolutely was.
But James Harrison came in at a really weird angle and came in really low.
That underhook.
And he slipped.
Although, if you're a coach, if you're an offensive line coach, the underhook is holding. However, you've got to teach your offensive lineman to, if he comes in with his shoulder down like that, you take a shoulder pad and you shove his face in the dirt because that's how you're supposed to deal with it.
They're not going to call that. So, I don't know.
And by the way, we're not even talking about Eagles versus Minnesota because it was a bad game, and Philly just ran away with it.
Cool.
So
I don't know why I picked Minnesota.
Boy, Foles was impressive, though.
Well, because we thought the defense was good, and we thought Keenan would not play Foles, and neither one of those things happened.
But see, I've been saying all year, do not pick Super Bowl host teams, and I fell victim to my own.
See,
thing.
but I don't take any merit in that because
stat.
they were hosting the Super Bowl. I don't. Whatever.
I think what happened with Minnesota is they never came down from what happened.
Yeah, and I think
New Orleans.
That's a fair point.
When you come out and your defense plays poorly, like they did, they played really, really bad. The defensive backfield was all over the place all night. They didn't know what they were doing.
Too.
They all looked confused. And if you get into a game like that, an NFC Championship game, and your secondary looks confused, you're going to be in trouble.
Oh yeah, and they were. I mean, when Minnesota scored in the first drive of the game, I thought, okay, wow. And
I tweeted out Skull. Hashtag Skull.
Because if you think back to
if
you think back to the conference championship games we've had in the last 8 or 9 years, normally if the early game is great, the late game is a dud, or vice versa. So I was anticipating this game to be a dud. But like when Minnesota scored, I'm like, they're gonna run away with it, and then they get the pick six, and then Philly gets the ball back.
They looked really good that first drive.
They look man like
they look darn good.
And really, Philly's defense played incredible.
Yeah,
that was a
great
defensive performance by that Philly defense. And I think if you're Tom Brady, you better be taking notes.
And it's a quick defense, too. This defense kind of reminds me of Jacksonville. I don't think it's quite as dominant as far as
it's better up front, but not as good in secondary.
I don't think you can put as much of that on the Vikings offense because if Philly's defense plays like that, they're going to do that to every offense in the NFL. The Vikings weren't going to be the only one that night.
Yep, and we're going to take a break here because we're looking over the segment like we always do when Trevor's on. It's always Trevor.
It's
like last week, we were perfect. Like we were on schedule every time, and then Trevor gets here. That's why we fired him last week.
But you brought me back, so what's that say?
It's bad management skills, I guess. Tomorrow, January
wanted the job.
Tomorrow, January 27th, Northwest Missouri State basketball teams host rival Missouri Western. Wear your cleanest white shirt to Bearcat Arena for the annual whiteout game. The women's game starts at 1:30, with the men following at 3:30. Ryan will be on the call along with Jenny James for that game. Prizes and giveaways will be available. We're going to take a quick break and be back with talk about a return of a certain sports league here on X106. And we are back here on the weekend sports kickoff. Devin Albertson with Ryan Elliott, Jacob Blair, and Trevor Maeder. As it's time to talk about the possible return of the XFL. As Vince McMahon announced yesterday that the XFL is going to try to make a return in 2020, be 8 teams, 40-man rosters, 10-game schedule. I know, Trevor, I'm going to go to you first. You're pretty excited about this. What do you think?
I am super stoked. Like the first time the XFL was around back in 2001, it was destined for failure. The way they set everything up, they kind of rushed everything. Vince McMahon being the chairman of the World Wrestling Entertainment, I think people had this misconception that it was going to be a lot like the professional wrestling and maybe the Extreme Football League. Maybe the name kind of gave people the wrong vibe to it. But I'm just excited because I want to see what it's like. Like, there's a very good chance, guys, that if the league even ever actually hits the ground running, that we all watch that first week and go, man, this is terrible. Why are we watching this? But there's a chance, too, we could go, holy cow, why do we even bother watching the NFL on Sundays during football season?
And one thing I want to say with the Extreme Football League, the X didn't stand for anything, as you said there, but he did say one time the NFL stood for No Fun League and XFL stood for Extra Fun League. So that's one thing he tried to coin there. And I will say they had some pretty cool names back in the day. The New Jersey Hitmen, the Chicago Enforcers, Orlando Rage, Birmingham Thunderbolts, the Memphis Maniacs, Las Vegas Outlaws, the LA Extreme, who won the championship, and the San Jose/San Francisco Demons. So a lot of good names in there.
And a lot of reason why that failed is because they had that partnership with NBC, and NBC had pulled their TV deal through season 1.
Yep.
And they destined to fail after that.
One of the other reasons why I think it failed was, as I've seen in tweet after tweet, was the football was bad.
Oh,
it was not good football.
I think as the season went along, having actually gone back and watched some of those games, I'm ashamed to admit, the football got better as the season went along. But it was still...
It never got to a point where you would actually legitimately want to sit down and watch an XFL game.
And I think a lot of that was from the kind of rushing everything together. I mean, because they barely even had training camps, and they were out there playing games. I mean, this, from the time they announced the creation of the league to the start of the season, was not even a full year, I don't think. So they just kind of threw everything together really quick. I mean, they didn't have rosters until 2 months before the season started, whereas I think now it's slated to start in, 2020?
Yep.
Yeah,
Two
so
seasons.
teams are going to start coming around in 2019.
So we're looking at 2 years out. So that's plenty of time for TV deals, coaches, teams, rosters. I'm really kind of excited for this, although, like I said, there's a very good chance I'll watch this for 1 week and be, oh my goodness, this is terrible. I'm never watching it again. But I feel like we should give it a try. Don't knock it until we've seen it.
Here's my concern with the XFL. It's still not the NFL. You're not going to have NFL players leaving the NFL to go play
Not
for the
yet.
XFL.
I mean, because you had that happen in the USFL.
And
to an extent.
the question is, can it last long enough to maybe start getting that? My concern with it is that it doesn't. You don't get players. The football's bad. I mean, who's going to be the quarterbacks of these teams?
Guys that weren't quarterbacks in the NFL.
What?
As
Tim
Ryan
Tebow, Johnny
said,
Manziel.
Johnny Tebow.
As Ryan said this morning, Trace McSorley. Guys
Trace
like that
McSorley,
who are good
Guys-
college but not great NFL guys.
Yeah, a guy that would have been great, but obviously he's past his prime now, would have been like Colin Klein.
Those
from Kansas
names,
State.
would bring
Pat White.
intrigue
Yeah.
Colt
to the
Brennan.
league.
Yeah,
If you
Colt
have
Brennan.
Tim Tebow, you have Johnny Manziel playing quarterback, that's going to bring intrigue to the league for people to at least watch the first couple
Is
weeks.
Doug Flutie
Graham
interested
Harrell.
in coming out of retirement? I mean, he's played in
We
every...
can name quarterback after quarterback.
Graham
man.
Harrell.
Yeah.
Who is that?
Keep going.
The kid from Northern Illinois that was a stud.
Jordan Lynch.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we could go on for...
Hey, Paxton Lynch might join
Yeah,
here.
Eric Crouch might come back for
yeah,
that.
I mean, and that's the thing is you... I don't think their goal is to necessarily dethrone the NFL. Maybe it is.
They're trying to find
Remember
a niche
John
market in
David
the
Booty?
spring.
Yeah, John David Booty.
played at
As long as
USC.
when they actually start doing this, they don't directly go and compete against
I think they're
the
trying to
NFL.
go after the Super Bowl
You
ends.
beat the NFL by going around the NFL.
That's what
Yeah.
they're going to
And
have to do.
let's be honest with ourselves. They're never going to beat
No,
the NFL.
but you can compete
But-
with the NFL because let's be honest. Go back to the USFL in the early '80s. Had they stayed in the spring, I don't know if that league would still be around, but I think its
And had
lifespan would have
Marcus
been
Dupree
longer.
not torn the bottom half of his leg off.
Yeah, that too. Great documentary, by the way.
Yeah, it's a fantastic 30 for 30.
But what happened is eventually they decided we need to compete with the NFL, and by they, mainly Donald Trump, who owned the New Jersey Generals at the time, said that we
Name drop.
well,
I know.
and
that
that's
count?
what it was. Is he said, if God wanted football played in the spring, he wouldn't have created baseball. Well, baseball's played during football season, technically. I mean, the games mean a lot.
times, yeah.
The games mean a
World
lot more
Series.
at that point in the year. But
Right.
I mean, why not capitalize on a time of year from end of February to April, where there's no football on.
Meaningless baseball.
There is college basketball.
Yeah.
You do have to compete
NBA.
with
I mean,
that.
yeah. But a lot of the guys who are college basketball and NBA fans aren't particularly fans of the NFL and vice versa. So you get that niche group like, you know what? Even if it's bad football, it's still football.
And I'm in that group.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I might just
See, I
turn
love
on
college basketball too.
I might turn on and be like, hey,
I'd much rather watch.
let's watch the Orlando Rage play.
Where I'm kind of on at this is, does anyone watch the G League?
I have,
No.
yes.
Because
I enjoyed it when Jimmer.
Of course you have.
Okay, Jimmer Fredette was playing. I had to watch.
Is the G League,
I don't watch minor
but
league
is the G League
baseball
on TV.
either.
That's the thing. Is it comes down to what kind of TV deals they can get. You know,
Yeah.
because how many G
That
League
is
games
true.
are televised?
That is true.
I mean, if they can get a
All
deal
online,
with,
baby.
you know, okay, so World Wrestling Entertainment has a deal with USA Network. Say they're able to get a deal with USA Network or Turner or something like that, who Vince McMahon's worked with in the past, or Fox Sports really interested potentially purchasing WWE's TV deal in 2019. Maybe there's something there as well. If you can get something like that where you get XFL games on FS1 or something like that, then that kind of makes it more appealing.
That's where the ultimate success.
Yeah,
of this
exactly.
Will rely.
And then the
where it ends
NCAA
up
tournament
being
starts,
able
and
to
I
be
don't watch
viewed.
anything but basketball.
Oh no!
for
If I had
a
to
month
choose,
and a half.
if I had between watching the Orlando Rage and the Memphis Maulers or Maniacs or whatever the world they are,
Maniacs.
or college basketball,
or yeah,
I'm gonna watch. I might check in every once in a while on the score of the game or something like that. But I'm
No.
gonna watch college basketball.
And one
Absolutely
thing
not.
that we talked about before the show started was
MEAC championship.
if McMahon's smart, he'll try to get franchises in cities that the NFL has left. So that's Oakland, San Diego, St.
St.
Louis.
Louis.
That's 3 right there.
I think
Probably in
you could-
Orlando.
you're
Just
gonna-
hit
you're gonna-
those hard because you're gonna get some support from people who are
Yeah.
like, you know what? Screw the NFL. Let's watch this
and
instead.
they're still gonna pull. I would say probably New York and Los Angeles,
Yeah.
just because they're such big markets.
Why
You
not?
can, but then tap into somewhere like Memphis again.
Yep.
You know, they have a perfectly fine football stadium. They're at the Liberty Bowl that it sits empty from the end of college season to the beginning of college season. So you could hit something like Memphis. There's a handful of places they could hit throughout Utah. I mean, put a team in Salt Lake. Salt Lake
Yeah.
doesn't have a Utah team. Virginia.
I mean, there's a lot of options there for the XFL if they want to find somebody who has a stadium to use and just try to get some fan base there, people who don't have NFL,
Here's
and be
a-
like, hey, we're just going to throw this here. Enjoy it. I mean, if
Here's
you can.
an interesting thought. Here's a very large city that doesn't have any professional sports teams
San
besides
Antonio.
hockey.
Louisville.
Columbus.
Columbus. Yep.
Ooh.
Columbus is a huge city.
Yeah, and a huge football state too in Ohio.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
the product might be better in Cleveland, so
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, Vince McMahon said his thing is to build an entertaining brand of football. Well, how do you do that? Put it in places that don't have it. If you put a team in
San
Milwaukee.
Antonio.
San Antonio would be, but if you put a team in, I don't know about Kansas City. I would
No.
be against that because I think everyone bleeds so much red. One, because they're human, and two, because they're Chiefs fans.
Kansas City Chieftains.
That they're not. Yeah, they're not going to maybe be as appealing to it as if you put a team in like Columbus, where
Yeah.
they love football.
Yeah, but they don't have a team.
Yeah, they don't have a team.
They have the Blue Jackets.
Alabama. Put a team, whether it's in Birmingham or Tuscaloosa or
play
wherever.
Bryant Denny.
Yeah, you could put teams in places like that.
definitely
Oregon,
plenty of options.
Oregon doesn't have a professional team.
Another thing with putting these teams in markets where they don't have it is keep the ticket prices
Oh yeah.
down. Keep them at lower level seats for maybe $25, $30.
So not gonna lie, like if they get a team like Omaha, I'd spend 20, 25, maybe $30 to go watch an XFL game. Maybe. I'm not
Get
gonna.
Tanner Lee as your quarterback, and you're good.
Yeah, well, and he's got an arm. He might actually be interesting as a pro. But I'm not going to spend $75 to go watch the Omaha Oracles or whatever they're called play.
Orcs.
Yeah, it's possible. Warren Buffett's the Oracle of Omaha, maybe.
Yeah, so definitely some possibilities there with the XFL, with other opportunities. And last time they had some pretty funky rules that were interesting, so maybe they won't have as many of the funky rules.
What do you think they could
didn't
do to make it
McMahon
more entertaining?
come out and say no gimmicks this time.
Yeah, he's gonna try to
around?
make
I'm
less
telling
gimmicks.
you, we talked about this earlier. No punts anywhere.
Thank you. I've been
ever.
saying that.
I'm
No
not gonna high
pun.
five you because I can't reach you, but
This is all Madden rules.
Yeah, Hail Marys
For real.
must be called at least once every drive. But no, I think you gotta make it entertaining. Make it where people want to watch. Less commercials. I know we talked about that because how many times
2-hour games.
How many times we watch
Yeah.
an NFL game? It's like touchdown, extra point, commercial, kickoff,
You
extra
wait
point,
forever in the stadium.
or
just-
kickoff, commercial. Next play, there's an injury, so we go to commercial.
roll it like college basketball. Go 20-minute halves.
Yeah,
Ooh.
just go two. You might go 25. You might
Back
go
off.
but go
Back off. Too far, Trevor.
I'm
Step
kidding.
it back a little.
So yeah, definitely some nice
And
avenues you can go here.
Could you get in a situation too then with like say, and maybe this would just kind of kill the rhythm of football where it doesn't basketball, but get in the situation where you say, hey, we're just gonna have kind of like media timeouts.
No team timeout, just media timeouts.
Or take away a team timeout, but give the media timeouts. Okay, if you say you play 4 15-minute quarters, say we're going to do an under 8 and under 4, and then end of the quarter.
You're not allowed to kick a field goal if you're inside the 10-yard line.
Nice.
Yes, that too. I was going to say 5, but I'm fine with the
No
10.
extra points. You got to get
What
two
you
every
guys
time.
have
They had
just
no
come
PATs
up
last
with
time.
sounds awesome. It
No
sounds
punts.
like it'd be great.
And even if they don't do no punts, I'm fine with that. Or if they allow them to punt, but no punts on your side of the 50.
If you want to make it really, really exciting, 11-on-1 kick returns.
that might be a little too far.
Well, like last time with punts, they had if it went out of bounds, it was a 10-yard penalty. Any punt farther than 25 yards was eligible for the kicking team to recover.
Punts.
There is no fair catch.
Those
Fair catches are not recognized. You can fair catch all you want. You're not going to get a fair catch. I mean,
You're going to get lit up.
Exactly. So there's a lot of fun stuff they can do with the XFL if they do it right.
Toss? How are they going to do it like because like
Mad scrum.
Like I like that the
Fight
scrum,
to the death.
like I like that.
Someone is signing James Harrison right away.
We've got a
Just for the
TLC
opening.
match at
Yeah.
midfield
We're gonna have
to
a
determine
last
who gets the ball.
man standing match, no holds barred.
Oh.
And that's why it failed the first time. Is people were like, oh, so the linebackers are going to be allowed to have steel chairs.
Yeah,
So
Maybe.
they should, but they're not going to.
If you want to see steel chairs and talked about tonight, 8 to 10, good old wrestling.
I would like to. I was asked to be a part of that, and I can't tonight. But you know what I want to know, and what'll really get my love from the XFL is if they can figure out what a catch is.
A catch is a
I mean,
catch.
if the XFL
No forward passes.
yeah,
That's the
like
next
if the
XFL,
can,
or only
if
forward
the XFL
passes.
can clearly define
Can't run the ball.
a catch and forward progress, I'll love it.
Just not have Jesse Ventura be one of your announcers.
Oh, no.
That might be a mistake.
No,
Three
and I think
teams-
they won't do that.
3 teams at once
A triple threat match.
in the same game.
For that heel turns.
It's a triangular field.
It's a triple threat football game.
And one more thing I want to mention here, thanks to my boss Mark Hendricks, who's watching right now. They aren't allowing players to have criminal past to play for the XFL. What do you guys think? I think that may be a mistake because there's some guys who couldn't quite make it, and I think the way they're framing it right now might be a mistake because if you get anything at all, you can't play, and that might just be a slippery, like a thing that you get caught with.
I think is tough. As I know you showed a list earlier of players that wouldn't be able to play, and I know I could think of 2 or 3 of them off the top of my head that were just for things like DUIs or possession of marijuana. I'm by no means condoning that you should go out and drink, get behind the wheel of a vehicle, or do marijuana. But, I mean, when you look at that, isn't that kind of minimal as opposed to guys that have been convicted of violent crimes?
And I don't want to get too far into politics here, but I think if you've got a DUI, back off. I don't want you in my association.
That's fair.
If you've got, because that's one thing. But you mentioned the guy's possession of marijuana or whatever. I think you can let some things go.
I mean, if you get a drunken disorderly,
DUI is where you draw the line.
See, and I think maybe you put it. I think it all depends on case by case.
But
Really.
I think you can let some things go.
Yeah. In my opinion, this is where I differ. Is, like I said, a DUI is obviously something that should be taken seriously, but I look at that differently than I do guys that have been charged with crimes against women or children. Guys like Greg Hardy. Yeah, I don't think Greg Hardy should.
See, to me, though, and again, I don't want to get too far into this, but, a DUI is that far from becoming one of those.
No,
from becoming
it is.
involuntary
It's pretty close.
manslaughter, from becoming, something along those lines. So,
I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting. I think they're limiting their pool definitely by putting those restrictions on it. I know they want to make it family friendly. That was a big knock on the XFL the last time, was that it definitely wasn't family friendly.
Not
It was
quite.
kind
I
of
don't
like
know what you're talking
it
about.
was like the EC. It was like the ECW of professional football, where it was not very good.
We're
and
having
it was
fun.
extreme, but they were having fun.
we're having copious, unnecessary, and sometimes obscene amounts of fun.
No one was watching their fun, but they were having fun. So I don't know. I'll be interested. I look forward to Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield being the quarterbacks of. Would Baker Mayfield even be eligible? Because he's been arrested.
That's a good point.
He's also tackled by Arkansas cops, so
But it was
better than any Arkansas
And he's
defensive
also going
back.
to be in the NFL, so it doesn't really matter. But
Doesn't matter for some of that stuff. Well, if he flames out in the NFL.
right,
Yeah.
Definitely.
that's
It
what I'm
depends on
saying.
how long the XFL lasts and
Right.
if it even starts.
we've got a ways to go, fellas.
Yeah, we got 2 years.
We had 2 years to talk about this before it actually happened.
Oh, great.
Every week we're talking about. I'm kidding. We're not
Man.
every week. But
I quit.
I'm going to pencil on my calendar. January 27th. I don't even know if that's the actual start time. 2020. The XFL begins.
What would be interesting is if they put this in the spring, in April, is if NFL players get
some
deals
borderline guys
where they go back and forth and play in both
and
leagues.
here's the thing,
So
though.
like someone like
It'd be
Baker
tough.
Mayfield, he's in the NFL and then
Yeah,
goes
and
over to the
there's probably
XFL and has
something
some
in
fun.
contracts
There-
that would.
yeah,
There's
but
gotta
that would
be-
be.
So, but
that would
here's
be
the
There's
thing,
got to
though.
be a non-compete going on.
So
there.
then if they play from January to April, I think one thing that XFL can do that I don't know if they will do, but if they really want to start getting good young talent, let guys that are 2 years removed from high school in.
Ooh.
I mean, because a guy like Jameis Winston, I know obviously it's too late for him now, but he could have gone pro after that first year at Florida State.
It's going to ruin
Manziel.
football.
It is, but I mean,
Possibly.
it did the same to college.
I love college football too much.
I know.
Don't do
And-
that to me, Trevor.
No, but it's something
Trevor,
that if,
bad idea,
that if
you're
I was
fired.
in charge, that's what I would do. And one other thing, guys, the collective bargaining agreement for the NFL ends in what, 2020?
2019.
Is it?
2019.
I knew
There
it was
it
some.
goes.
So I mean, there could.
Putting the pressure on them.
Except by that time, the XFL will be so popular, even though they haven't played a game yet, that they will absorb the NFL.
And that
And
40
Roger
team-
Goodell is going to become Vince McMahon's janitor.
Yeah, he'll be the general manager of Monday Night Raw.
Let's
Won't
go.
Won't that be
Might
it?
as well be Vince McMahon's janitor.
That's what it is. That's exactly
right.
what it is.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to bring Kramer Sansone on first, talk about the MLB Hall of Fame, and if there's any other news coming along in baseball here on X106.
I mean, he took the Phillies to a World Series. He won a World Series with Diamondbacks. He won a World Series with the Red Sox. I mean, the dude was a stud for the better part of a decade.
The problem was that on 2 of those 3 teams, he wasn't the number 1 guy.
No, and that's maybe where it differs. But I still think he's a Hall of Famer, and I think kind of the rap on him has been, you know, his far right political views have tended to rub
Far right.
Yeah, very far. I mean, like here's far right, and then you see where that sign is. That's Kurt Schilling.
Behind Ryan.
But still, that to me, like, and maybe this is where I'm different. Is I don't care about that.
Right.
When I'm looking at a Hall of Famer, I could care less. You know, whether he's Republican, Democrat, Independent. I don't care. He was a really good baseball player, and to me, he's Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah, so the 4 guys that got in, I think, are absolutely Hall of Famers.
Jones, Guerrero,
And
Tomey, Hoffman.
I think Jones and Tomey are 100% first ballot Hall of Fame.
yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
I think Hoffman should have gotten in last year. I think Guerrero should have gotten in last year. But that's beside the point because they're both in now, so it doesn't matter.
Yay.
So let's drop down to Edgar Martinez.
Yes.
It's going to be difficult because next year's the last year Martinez is on the ballot. It's going to be difficult for the committee to put Edgar Martinez in before they do David Ortiz because it's tough to put the number 1 DH in before to put the number 2 DH in before the number 1 DH. Unfortunately, it's just a timing issue that's the problem there. But I think that's some of the issue that a lot of these guys are having is like, well, we've got the number 1 DH coming later. It's going to be weird to put the number 2 in first.
Yeah.
You know, and so
Yeah, but they can also look at the time and like when Edgar Martinez played and then Big Papi played. They can also look at how like, oh, this is his stats between then and like see how it builds up.
right.
But then again, we obviously know David Ortiz is 100% better.
Yeah, he's
than
the greatest
Edgar.
DH
Yeah.
ever.
Exactly, but still they gotta like also break that down to like get at least some more people into the DH spot into the Hall of Fame, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. They just need to like take their time, like go through everything to make sure, because like Edgar Martinez is obviously worthy
Right.
of a Hall of Fame.
And the issue that I think that you come to is there are so many DHs prior to the Martinez Ortiz era that just don't have the numbers. And if you don't have the
That's
numbers,
true.
you're not going to get in. But I think
I mean, if Martinez would have played like first base his entire career, then there's a
The
possible good
two-
chance that he would make it.
Already,
Better, yeah, easily.
the 2 that have the numbers are Martinez and Ortiz.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's anybody else out there that you can say
Billy
has
Butler?
the numbers
I'm kidding.
No, Billy
I'm
Butler.
kidding.
that has the numbers to make it into the Hall of Fame for sure, even if they were at another position.
So I'm kind of a nerd, as you guys know. And-
Who
yeah.
isn't?
Nerds!
Seriously, who isn't?
Who would have guessed this? So, and I really enjoy the Baseball Hall of Fame. So a couple weeks ago, I created this spreadsheet that it kept track of all these things, statistics on baseballreference.com. It measures their Hall of Fame meter, their Hall of Fame standards, which is some formula thing that I'm not smart enough to figure out. WAR, we all know what WAR is.
Right.
WAR 7, which is a combination of their 7 best years, and then a statistic called JAWS. Well, then I went through and I ranked each one of them based off of that, and I made a point system. So you got 15 points for being the top one and so on. And I won't tell you the top 2 guys that scored because they'll probably never get even though they should. But Chipper Jones, Kurt Schilling, Larry Walker were the next 3, 4th, 5.
And Larry Walker got 34% of the
Yeah,
vote.
and I think a lot of it, Larry Walker gets a bad rap because he kind of gets forgotten,
Yeah.
you know.
Nobody.
But and you look,
remembers
Vladimir
Colorado.
Guerrero actually was 9th on there. Edgar Martinez I had 11th, which is really kind of interesting. I thought he'd be higher than that. Trevor Hoffman was really, really low down there because it's tough to really kind of
Right.
find stats.
Quantify
Well,
it.
and
Yeah.
this goes into the discussion of what we had for Yachty versus Joe Mauer last week.
Yep.
In that it goes beyond sabermetrics at this point.
Yeah,
it goes
I think
beyond the numbers, and really it goes into different numbers. It goes into, you look at Larry Walker. Larry Walker doesn't have the monster home run numbers that a guy like Jim Thome has.
Yep.
No. But I think Larry Walker's a Hall of Famer.
Eventually, I think so.
I think.
I mean, it has to be sometime soon.
Yeah,
Right,
'cause
he's
this
running
is
out of time.
He's
Yeah.
got 2 years left.
But
Or it's 2.
He's
I
got
believe.
It's
two.
2.
Yeah.
I think Edgar's the only one that in age is coming off this time.
Fred McGriff got
Yeah.
one more left, maybe. I thought there was someone else I saw that only had.
Maybe.
Fred McGriff should already been in there. Honestly, I feel like Fred McGriff should.
He had 23% of the vote this year.
I don't
Yeah.
think so. I don't think McGriff gets in because
think
I don't
McGriff-
think McGriff was consistently good enough.
All right, that's
So I'm looking at the guys
good
that I
point.
have on here. Bonds, Clemens.
Yeah, the two elephants. Well, before you keep going, the two elephants in the room: Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, the steroid users. In your opinion, should they be in? Like, just go around the table. Who should they be in? Yes or no? Like,
Yes, they would have probably been Hall of Famers before the steroids.
How about you, Kramer?
You go ahead, Kramer.
I believe they should too, because I mean, you can't look at the steroids like it depends on when they first took the steroids, and then we'll see the stats after they took it. That's only when they'll come out to say, oh yeah, that's when I took the steroids.
Yeah.
And so they look at the stats then, and they probably had the stats to make it into the Hall of Fame.
I think Bonds and Clemens both would have been Hall of Famers without the steroids. I think the issue that you have to look at, though, is that these two guys, for the early 2000s and the late 90s, ruined the game of baseball.
But a lot of
And-
Clemens, though, was kind of towards the end of his career, wasn't it?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
but towards the end of the
That's-
career was the early 2000s.
That's like that's mostly for everybody who's taking
and
steroids.
so they
They're trying to keep up.
ruined the game of baseball. You can't look at the early 2000s and the mid 1990s without seeing the steroid era in baseball. It is nothing but the steroid era at that time.
No, absolutely.
And I think that they put that sort of storm cloud over the game of baseball in that era.
But Tim Raines was like the poster child of the cocaine problem of the 80s,
Right.
and he finally got in.
And I think these two both will be in the Hall of Fame. I think they should be. I think they would have been without the steroids. And Devin and I had this conversation this morning. Barry Bonds is not the home run king.
No.
No.
He's a Hall of Famer, not the home run king. It's easy to.
no,
it's easy for me to
The two-
compartmentalize that.
The two home run kings in Major League Baseball are Hank Aaron and Roger Maris. Without a doubt.
And then I
Without a
responded
doubt.
with until Stanton plays this year in Yankee Stadium
Right.
for a year, but
Or
that's going to be boy.
yeah.
give him a couple of years.
pop flies to right field, and
And
there's
so
the
those
third home
are,
run
you
record.
know, I think the records need to come off, but I think you should let them in the Hall of Fame. I think part of the issue that the committee sees, though, is that if they let Bonds and Clemens in, they're going to have to revisit Pete Rose.
And I think
that's
maybe
true.
that's where they're dragging their feet at.
I don't think they want to.
I think with
they
the-
should.
I
but
think
don't
with a
they
guy
want
like
to.
Bonds and Clemens, you can make the argument, yeah, those guys are Hall of Famers with or without steroids. I think where it gets
Yeah.
murky is when you look at guys that maybe they have a case because they use steroids, but who knows, have they not? Andy Pettit,
McGuire.
Sosa.
McGuire, Canseco, Sosa. I mean, like Kramer and I talked about, really all Sammy Sosa did. I was surprised he scored as high on this chart as he did. All he did really was hit home runs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hit home
that's-
runs and struck out.
I mean, that was literally he was like Aaron Judge before Aaron Judge. So, and I'm not saying Aaron Judge is going to be Sammy Sosa, but I mean that's all Sosa did was
Well, to an extent, Giancarlo Stanton.
yeah. No, that's
Adam Dunn.
Adam,
That's pretty right.
Adam
Jay
Dunn.
Bruce. I didn't even pick one.
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys who just do that when it comes to baseball. So,
Brandon Moss.
yeah. So who else was scored high in your thing?
So I took the top 10 because, like I said, I believe that you should put 10 in if you get
Yep.
10. I didn't have Trevor Hoffman. I put him on my ballot, so to speak, that I had on my blog because he should be in.
Absolutely.
So my top 9, I had Bonds, who scored the maximum, Clemens, who scored the maximum per second, Chipper Jones, Kurt Schilling, Larry Walker, Mike Mussina, Manny Ramirez. Here's a guy that kind of got overlooked, Jim Tomei, and Vlad Guerrero. Just missed were Sammy Sosa, Edgar Martinez, and Gary Sheffield.
Right.
So, yeah.
Interesting list.
I think the issue is that you go beyond WAR in this situation.
Yeah. Well,
I think
like I said,
WAR
it was-
WAR is a flawed statistic in its
yeah.
own right.
But any stats a flawed statistic
Right.
when you look at baseball.
So, a question. So, no Carlos Zambrano. So
Carlos Zambrano scored a whopping 1 point on my system.
Nice.
Orlando Hudson. He didn't get in there.
Orlando
The
Hudson
O-Dog.
did not.
I'm totally kidding.
Trevor Hoffman had less points than Johan Santana.
Hey, Carlos Lee got a
Yeah.
Hall of Fame vote, so let's just let
Yeah.
that sit in for a
Again,
second.
it's a
Okay.
situation where not only do closers not have very many
Yeah.
statistics, but at the same time, saves are a relatively young statistic anyway, and so I think eventually we're going to see more closers in the Hall of Fame. But for right now, another thing that I talked about with Devin this morning was that
Next year's ballot.
that
Mariano Rivera.
Mariano should be.
And
first
I think
ballot
it's
Hall of
it's good that Hoffman got in this year because I don't know they would have put two closers
Right.
in next year.
And so I think it's been difficult for the committee thus far to justify putting in guys that only play one inning a game.
Yeah.
Well, I want to go back to the Bonds and Clemens thing. Since, I mean, they have been taking steroids. Then how come Ivan Rodriguez is in the Hall of Fame? Because he is on the list of taking steroids, and he's in the Hall of Fame.
Well, there's a lot of guys. I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
there are a lot of
and he was actually convicted before he.
Which
made
one of
thing.
the Hugh, was it Biggio or Bagwell that was connected? Was it Bagwell?
I'm pretty sure
it took forever.
Yeah, I think
it was
Bagwell.
Bagwell.
I mean, Mike Piazza.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think those guys are
that's just it.
connected.
So
they're
they're-
connected, but they're not the faces of the
There are-
steroid
there are
era.
Well,
plenty
and
of
they-
guys.
That's the bad part.
And they weren't the consistent. I mean,
No.
year after year after year after year. Pudge was once. They came out and said Biggio or Bagwell was connected in one instance.
But like
you
they
know.
went. Another thing that might hurt them, we talked about it with Ryan earlier, is they said I did not use
Right.
steroids
They were
so
so adamant
hard.
against
They're
it.
so adamant against it, and they really haven't ever apologized. Like, hey, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Like they haven't done that. So I think it's hard for some of the writers to feel sympathy for them at all, like forgive them. And before you go, Trevor, but one thing I want to say with the writers for having that little bit of hypocrisy, because they're the ones who vote on MVP, and they gave Bonds 7 of them, and they knew at some point this guy is juicing. Look at his head; it's ginormous. So
Seriously.
there's some point there's hypocrisy there with the writers.
Man
Like,
wears
hey,
a
we're gonna
5XL hat.
we're gonna reward you now, but we're gonna punish you later. Like, come on, you gotta have a little bit of
Hat's
consistency
an
there.
11 and a half.
So here's my thing then. Looking at Bonds and Clemens and how long they've been on the ballots and haven't got in, even though they should be.
Yeah.
Does that mean that Alex Rodriguez is going to go down that same road? Because I think A-Rod's a Hall of Famer, but I think kind of he's going to be in the same situation that Bonds and Clemens are in, where it was, that obviously he has been the poster child.
I think it goes to the point where he has came out and said I made a mistake, and he's tried to repair his image, and it's working because he's working for Fox. He's not going to be on Sunday Night Baseball for ESPN. I mean, he's really worked himself back into the sport a little bit and got a little bit of good graces with baseball a bit in the last
Mark
couple years.
McGuire in the same right. I mean,
Yep.
he's never going to be a Hall of Famer,
No.
but at the same time, he's had a lot of success as a hitting coach in L.A. He's doing a lot of really good things. He denied it for a very long time. For a long time, McGuire was like, "I did not do steroids."
I'm not here to talk about the past.
But eventually he came around. He admitted his mistakes, and I think baseball's re-embraced him
Forgave
because
him.
of it.
so is the best thing Bonds and Clemens could do now is just come out and say, look,
I think
yeah.
it's too late now.
I mean, yeah, at this point it's been 10 years they've been dragging this on with the whole
Yeah.
Balco thing. I
Yep.
mean,
So
I mean, I don't think it's too late for him, because I mean, Bonds is a hitting coach.
better late than never.
He's still in the game. That's
Yeah.
What I'm saying though is I think it's too late for them
to say they're sorry.
to come up and say they're sorry and have it do anything.
That's
I don't,
fair.
because you look what they get, 60% of the vote or 50.
57 and
57,
56. I think.
Yeah, I
Yep.
don't know that them coming out and saying, "Look, I took steroids" is going to give an 18 vote swing.
Yeah, because they're going to say,
18%.
"Look, I
Well, I
took
mean,
steroids," and everybody else is going to go,
Worth a
"Duh."
shot, okay?
Yeah, I don't know.
honestly, it is, because I mean, they're only he's 56 and 57. It's
Yeah.
not far off.
Yeah, it's right there.
How many years has he been on the ballot? Is this
They've-
his-
they've
Six
both
for
been
Bonds.
six.
Yeah, or yeah,
I
both
think it was 6
okay.
or 7. I couldn't remember.
And guys on next year's ballot, we have Mariano Rivera, Roy Halladay, Andy Pettit, Roy Oswalt for some of the pitchers that are notable hitters, Todd Helton, Lance Berkman, and then others like Kevin
See,
Euclid and others
and
like that.
Kramer and I
Miguel
were talking
Tejada.
about this yesterday. Is Lance Berkman a Hall of Famer?
If Biggio and Bagwell,
Like
are,
I love Lance Berkman.
Same.
And I love Todd Helton too. I think he's going to kind of be in the same boat that Larry Walker was, where he was in Colorado. People forgot about him.
yeah. Well, I think Colorado kind of inflates the statistics too. I think people
Yeah.
look at Colorado and go, "Oh, he hit 300 home
But you
runs."
look at
in
Larry Walker,
Colorado.
I mean, Larry
my
Walker-
9-year-old son could do that.
Larry Walker played really well in Montreal though as well.
I don't
Yeah.
have a 9-year-old son.
When
But
you was-
that was from the mind of a baseball writer.
All right, good deal.
So I don't know. Get Larry Walker in the Hall of Fame.
But I think Mariano's first ballot.
Absolutely.
Easily.
I think Halladay. I don't think Roy Halladay is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think Roy Halladay is eventually a Hall of Famer, but I
I'm
don't
not so
think.
sure
I
he
think
doesn't get in on the first ballot though.
right. And I
With
was
the
we
76%
talked
or
about,
something right there.
we talked about that this morning too. Is I think probably the writers are going to kind of let that cloud their vision a little bit, which is not necessarily a bad
No.
thing, but because I think he would get in eventually. But I don't think there is an elite class, there is an elite spot reserved for first ballot Hall of Famers. Only the absolute best in the game
Ken Griffey,
should be first ballot Hall of Famers.
Mariano.
And I think Halladay kind of sits on that line, and I think he sits on the other side.
I
of
think
that
so.
line.
Is Derek Jeter first ballot Hall of Famer?
Should
I would hope
He's a Yankee.
so.
He'll be in first
Yeah,
ballot.
exactly.
Also, one thing we were talking about with Rivera, how many votes is he going to get? How percentage is he going to get? Because right now the highest is Griffey, who got 99.32%, which is all but 3 votes. So whoever the 3 writers are
And-
idiots.
Well, and one of them,
But-
because I know there was one writer, I don't know if he's still on the Baseball Writers Association voting committee, but that at one point didn't vote for anybody that played in the steroid era. I mean, because he's the same guy that didn't vote for Greg Maddux.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I mean, just turn at that point. Just turn if you're not going to
yeah.
vote, just there's hundreds of others of baseball writers out there. That
The other
would
top
love to
guys
vote.
who got votes is Tom Seaver, who got 98%, almost 99%. Nolan Ryan got 98, almost 99%. Cal Ripken Jr. got 98.5%. Ty Cobb got 98.2%.
Those top 5 should all have been 100%.
And then George Brett was 6. Hank Aaron.
Do you think maybe baseball writers sometimes though just don't vote for a guy just so in that way they can say that he is a unit? I mean, I don't know,
all those guys should be.
Yeah,
unanimous.
all those guys. I would have voted for all of them on the first ballot, just like everyone else should have.
I would have voted for him twice if I could have on the first ballot. These are all those guys are the top of the top in baseball.
Yeah.
These are guys that if you made a Mount Rushmore of baseball, at least one of them would be on it.
I mean, I would
every single person.
I'd say all of them. Yeah.
I think Derek Jeter should get 100%.
Well, if you only
of the
got
vote.
4 spots, though,
I don't think he will.
That's the problem.
And Chipper Jones, he was the 11th highest this past year with 97.16%.
I think Chipper Jones should have got 100% of the vote, but
Randy Johnson got 97%. I mean, there's a lot of good guys. Tony Gwynn. So nice to see that. Anything in baseball news? We talked about Lorenzo Cain last night, 5 years, $80 million to Milwaukee, and then Alcides Escobar 1 year, $2.5 million back to Kansas City,
And Christian Yelich to Milwaukee
Yes.
in exchange for
I think-
Lewis Brinson and a bunch of nobodies.
and Jose Reyes signed with
on that
Mets.
I think the Escobar deal is a cheap deal for the Royals, nonetheless. I mean, so you're not paying a guy a
Right.
boatload of money to $215 if he's lucky. So that's good. As far as the Kane one, I don't know. I think 5 years, $80 million for a guy that's 31.
He'll be 32 in April.
and he's had a lot of nagging lower body injuries with his groin and his knees and stuff.
but
That's a lot.
a center fielder that can hit is
It's rare right now.
Yeah.
It's very rare.
And you
everybody's
can
gonna
move into
pay-
the corners later.
That's high price, And I think you're dealing with some pretty valuable goods there in Lorenzo Cain because he's a center fielder.
But
that
I
can
think
hit.
the Royals were probably proactive in saying, look, we're not, dude, if Milwaukee's going to offer you $80 million, then go. Because like Devin and I talked about, they're going to get that draft pick from
Yep,
it.
$80 million is that threshold.
So they're getting a draft pick out of it, and that's $80 million that they're not spending. When who knows who's going to – that means who knows who's going to be the center fielder. It could be Bubba Starling. But, man, I'm excited for that. But
it's going to be a rebuild in Kansas City.
But I mean,
Escobar lead him to the championship.
why would you expect anything different?
Right.
Yeah.
But I think this time they've built their farm system to a point where the rebuild's not going to be 30 years this time.
5 maybe?
The rebuild's going to be, probably 4 or 5. They've built a legitimate farm system now, and I think that's kind of what's going to lead this rebuild for the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see Will Myers at least wear a Royals uniform, and they traded him away. But I mean, I don't even know who they traded him for, and they're probably still not even a Royal.
Who
If they're trying to rebuild that way.
Was it Shields?
Shields and Davis.
Yeah, Shields and
Was
Davis.
Was Odorizzi part of their
Yes.
farm system
Yeah.
one time too? Yeah.
So a lot of different guys there
Jose
from Kansas
Bautista
City.
was part of their farm system at one time.
A lot of people. A lot of people.
What did you guys think of the Padres having their social media accounts hacked and saying they signed Hosmer?
Here's what I think. I don't think it actually was hacked. I think that they were really, 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 really close to a deal. And I think some idiot in the Padres organization went, all right, we're close enough. Let's tweet it.
We're jumping the
and
gun.
then they got out a little early.
So definitely
That's
interesting
not
there.
really that far fetched. Honestly.
I mean, everybody's gonna know Hosmer's not coming back, and he's gonna go where the money's at. And I mean, there's a lot of money in Kansas City, but I just don't know if it's the right amount that he wants.
The problem is that they have the money to bring these guys back. They have the money. They're not willing to spend the money, and there are other teams out there that are willing to spend the money.
Well, and the thing
Same
is,
concept with Albert Pujols.
If you bring Hosmer and Moustakas back, I mean that ties up a large sum of their.
And you're still rebuilding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've said all along, one or the other. If you're not going to get them both. If you get neither, that sucks. Growing up a Royals fan and watching these guys, that would really suck. But at the same time, you're going to rebuild no matter what. I mean, Salvador Perez is still there. You have some young talent around them that has potential as well.
And the question is going to be for Hosmer, do you want to rebuild in Kansas City or do you want to rebuild in San Diego?
I think San
a little bit
Diego's
shorter
I think
for a
San
little bit more
Diego's
money.
kind of, but I think San Diego's kind of a little bit ahead of the Royals in the
absolutely.
rebuilding.
I think
they
they're
got some,
probably
they got
2
some
or
young
3
talent.
years. I think they could be 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I mean,
compared to 4 or 5.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. I mean, but the thing that I would make if I was Dayton Moore, the pitch I'd make to him is, do you want to be another guy in San Diego, or do you want to be
The All-Star
like George Brett.
Yeah.
Or-
Because if Eric Hosmer stays in Kansas City for his career,
Look at a statue.
it'll literally, when you look at the Royals Mount Rushmore, it'll go George Brett, Eric Hosmer. I mean, he'll be right there with them because the dude's a hero in Kansas City.
I think if you look at, though, there are a couple of sleeper teams that are kind of sitting back and just kind of waiting on it that are closer even than San Diego. If you look at Boston is in the conversation for Eric Hosmer, and St. Louis is in the conversation for Eric Hosmer. I think both of those teams obviously are closer than San Diego and Kansas City are. Maybe aren't willing to give up the amount of years, but are still going to give Hosmer the yearly salary that he wants.
Yep, definitely. So we're going to take a break. We want to thank Kramer for coming on talking baseball with us. Make sure you catch good old wrestling tonight from 8 to 10 p.m. What are you guys going to be talking about tonight?
We're going to be talking about the 25th anniversary of Monday Night Raw, and we're having a good old special of the Royal Rumble since it's this Sunday.
Nice. So that's what you can catch tonight from 8 to 10 p.m. here on X106. Good old wrestling, our new sports wrestling show. So we're going to take a break and come back with Isaiah Swan going to be joining the show. We're going to talk a little bit of Bearcat basketball here on the weekend Sports Kickoff. And we are back for the weekend sports kickoff. Devin Albertson, Ryan Elliott, Jacob Blair now kick Trevor off the set. We're going to bring in Isaiah Swan. Talk about some Bearcat basketball.
We actually have Isaiah in the main studio. In studio. This might be a first. This is incredible.
I think it might be a first ever for Isaiah.
Traded a few draft picks around, kind of made some big moves in upper management, and at the end of the day, I think everyone walked away happy.
And I think we're going to keep mixing up this side of the table, and these cameras over here are going to be so confused because they're going to have no idea who's over here next. We might bring in somebody totally different. You never know.
Be a new segment on the show.
Yeah, we just picked this guy off the street. We don't know who he is.
Yeah, definitely possible with that. See what we can get on next week. But we're going to talk about the men's team here first. And as we were talking about in the break, Chris Ebuin now is 8 points away from his 1,000th point. He'll be the 22nd player in Bearcat history to score 1,000 points and the 12th to get the 1,000 points, 500 rebound club in Northwest history. So, and he had a heck of a game versus Fort Hays State last week to get that win on the weekend without Pitt's playing.
Yeah, 20 and 14. He had a great night. And I think really that game as a whole was great for Northwest. I think it was good for the confidence of the guys on the team to go, okay, we can do this without Justin. We can. We've got the fight. We've got the hunger to do this. If we don't have Justin, it would have been a lot. It would not. I won't say easier, but it would have been really easy for them to sit and go, oh boy, no Justin tonight. How are we going to do this? Instead, they came out, they fought, they played great basketball, ended up with a 13-point lead at the end of the half, and got a good, solid win without their guy.
Yeah, I think as I've seen the season go on, Ryan, I think that the team has slowly kind of grown out of this dream world where everything was kind of going right at the beginning of the year. I mean, you look at the stats. I mean, we were averaging over 80 points a game. We were shooting almost like 50 nearly 60% from field goal range and almost 50% from 3-point range as well. So you look at that and you're like, wow, nothing could go wrong. They run into their first loss, and I think they played a little angry against Pitt State, beating them by double digits, and then Southwest Baptist. Then you kind of get back to Central Missouri where things got a little tougher, and they're a good team, still picking up the big win. I think you're starting to feel some wear and tear, maybe the pressure kind of fall on this team.
And I think in the loss to Kearney and to an extent the game against Hayes, the game against Central Missouri, they played kind of tired. They looked tired. They looked like this is a team that has played 4 games in 10 days and they needed some time off. And they got the time off that they needed. We're going to see how they come out against Missouri Western. But this is a team that you can't expect to keep up that clip for an entire season. It's almost impossible no matter how good you are. And it's just another situation where, you got to know what it's like to lose. You got to know what it's like to be in a tough situation, to face some adversity. And now they have it. They've lucked out to where they're still sitting on top of the region in a lot of people's projections right now. And they just got to realize that, okay, we can't afford any more. We got to lock down for the rest of the season.
And when I say they're dropping off, let's be clear. They're still shooting 50% from the field. They're still shooting 42% from 3. This is a really good team.
Yeah.
And I think the drop-off may have been from by far best team in the country to maybe not playing like the best team in the country, but like even on their bad nights, whenever Coach McCollum even says that they're playing, at like a 6 or 7, they're still a top 10 team.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then right now they only have 9 regular season games left, including the whiteout game tomorrow versus Missouri Western, who is near the bottom of the conference. Do we have any idea if Pitts is going to play tomorrow, if he's kind of got through some of his injury issues, if he's going to play? Because if he doesn't play, it could almost be a decent thing because you get another week of rest for him until next Thursday, and they host Lincoln, Missouri, also at Bearcat Arena. If he does play, you're playing Missouri Western, so it's not as much of a high-pressure situation because they're not very good this year.
I would be shocked if Pitts is not on the floor. I think he should be there. I think a lot of it is, I think not to feel like it's a conspiracy theory or anything like that, but I think that whenever you lose a game and you need a fresh start, I think they saw that Justin was a little hurt. And they said, okay, Justin's a little hurt. Let's rest him and let's really I think he could have played.
It was
That's
the
what I'm trying to
equivalent.
say.
I think it was the equivalent of Coach Mack throwing the rest of the guys out there and going, "You're on your own now, guys. You don't have your guy, the best player in all of Division II college basketball is not out here right now. You guys are on your own. You've got to figure it out." And they did.
Yep.
They rose to the occasion, and the win over Fort Hays to me was as impressive as any win they've had all year.
It's a solid MIAA team on the road in a great arena.
Because they went out and they fought, and that's exactly what I think Coach Mack wants to see in this team. Is you got to go out and fight every night, even if you're playing a team that's 3-14 and 1-9 in conference play like Missouri Western.
And definitely, and one thing you saw last week that helped Northwest out a lot was Washburn losing to Pitt State and keeping that one game difference between them. Northwest goes there in a couple weekends to play versus Washburn on the road, but Northwest is a little home streak they're going to have here versus Western, Lincoln, and Lindenwood over the next week. Will be good for them to be at home for a little bit. And of course, as Isaiah said, I think Pitts could have maybe played. Yeah. If that game happens in March, he's playing the next game. Like, that's not even a question mark if he's playing or not.
And I go back to one of the things we talked about a couple weeks ago, which was, okay, now this team's got to rely on somebody else. Well, there goes that out the window because Pitt State took care of business for them. So now all of a sudden this team controls their own destiny, but they have to realize, guys, we can't afford anymore.
No more slip-ups.
We can't afford any more slip-ups. We've got to be solid for the rest of the year, and if we are, we're on top of the region, we're on top of the conference, everything works out.
And I think McCollum's job is hard. I think McCollum's job is really hard because you've got guys that are coming back from a team that's won the national title, and I think the pressure or maybe the hunger that they showed at the beginning of the season was, we haven't lost in so long, so now we've got this extra push to us. Now they've lost. They've won a national title. I think the easy choice within their human capabilities to say, well, we won a national title, so I think that we can kind of digress. But I think McCollum has a really hard job. I mean, you guys heard him after the game. I mean, the dude sounded depressed after
your tweet was eye-opening.
He sounded really upset. And, I mean, I know you could say, well, this is a coach defending his team and taking all the pressure off him. You can say that all you want, but I'm going to tell you right now that I legitimately think that he is not frustrated, more so upset with himself and, just upset that these guys aren't hungry. And where does he get the hunger?
Energy?
Where does he get the hunger? That's the question.
I think some of what goes in that lack of hunger is you're in the middle of January. It's kind of that lull of the season, and this Northwest team, they know they're good. So I kind of wonder if they're just ready to get to March. You've seen this little downslide here in the middle of January. They're like, we're good. We just need to get to March. They're ready to get to March. And now they realize after they've had this little slide, they lost Justin for a game. Like, we can't do this. We have to, you have to play the whole regular season.
If you want to host in March, you got to keep winning in January and February. So that's one big thing. They're looking for it also to help them out with Northern State up in the north. They lost to St. Cloud State last weekend as well. So two teams that were right there with Northwest, top of the region, both lost to help Northwest kind of balance out their loss. So that was nice for the other teams in the region to help Northwest out a little bit. So we maybe see this region back in Maryville. Because it was an electric atmosphere here last year in Maryville.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a huge advantage for Northwest, and they get that region in Maryville. And you can definitely ride that to the Elite Eight, and then anything can happen. Northwest travels well up to Sioux Falls. Anything can happen up there. Northwest can match up with pretty much anybody in the nation. So we'll see what happens there. Anything else?
I'm interested to see if the fans do show up. I've been not disappointed, but there's been games where we have a really good crowd turnout. But you look at the beginning of the season, and I understand that it's the beginning of the season. I understand football season's coming to an end, and there's a lot of intangibles that you can't really mess with. But man, I just have not seen the same fan turnout as there was last season. And I think that's really big for this team.
And I think
it's really big.
I think part of that came off of a bit of a hangover over a disappointing football season, because there is no separation between football and basketball fans at Northwest right now.
Right,
The football fans and the basketball fans. So I think the disappointing season from the football team might have had just a little bit to do with a lot of fans were kind of groggy and disappointed, and they didn't want to, oh, it was a bad season, whatever. And I think now they're kind of starting to get into the spirit of this basketball team. And we saw Central Missouri was a good crowd, solid crowd,
1,200 people.
Yeah,
people.
absolutely.
And if there should be more than that this game, because of all the publicity that's been out about this whiteout against, and it's a rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think a game like this tells a lot about just the fans at Northwest. Not to put any pressure on them, but to say that I think that they really do make games like this very big. And like Devin said, 3 games straight here. And you look at the schedule. They have a game, 3-day break game, 2-day break game, 4-day break game, 3-day break game. And then, it's kind of 2 days breaks, and they keep going. And these are the games that they've got to be automatic in their back pocket. Like Devin said, moving into February, you want to be still going into form as you move into February and move into the playoff season in March.
And one thing to look forward to is the senior night is against Missouri Southern here in Maryville. You have all those seniors wanting to get back at Missouri Southern, so that could be a fun atmosphere as well on the possible last home game, depending on how regionals work out for Northwest versus Missouri Southern, who's kind of a rival the last couple of years who've been able to knock off Northwest.
And I think you've got a stretch of 3 games here that you get to go out and you get to play your style of basketball. You get to play a little bit more free against these teams. You got Missouri Western, Lincoln, and Lindenwood, 3 in a row, all at home, all teams that aren't necessarily the cream of the crop in the MIAA. Lincoln's been pretty good this year at times, but and then at Emporia State. So you've got those 4 games there to kind of get the ball rolling here, play your brand of basketball, and then all of a sudden you go to Topeka for the MIAA. That's the MIAA championship.
Yeah,
definitely right in there. And right now, if you look ahead to this next week, Lindenwood, they're 5-6 in conference play. Lincoln's 4-7, and Missouri Western is 1-9. So
poor.
So not great competition over the next 3 games, but the games you have to win in the MIAA if you want to win the conference tournament.
I'll tell you what,
conference title.
I haven't been here in a while. Have you guys talked about Kurth?
He's been really good.
Okay.
Zave's been something else, man.
I talked about at the beginning of the season that there needed to be a guy that stepped up after Mosby left, because we all knew that Ryan Welty could shoot the 3. We got Joey who can shoot the ball as well. We needed a guy that could bring in the energy. Man, he's brought the full train back.
And the fun part about the fun part about Xavier Kurth is he's a fantastic defender.
Yes,
he is such a good defender, and he is all over the place. He
loves that side of the ball.
He is, he is a mean dude.
He's the X factor. He's the X factor for the rest of the year. I really do believe that, and I say that because he is the lockdown defender.
Right.
And the scouting report says that you don't guard Xavier if he's open, because he is open a lot, because he's known to not shoot.
Right.
But when he gets his shot, if he converts, if he just gets 2 or 3 shots to go in, man, you're talking about a giant bonus to a team that already is getting a lot of points.
And he's shot better this season.
And you're talking about a guy who's high energy on defense. It's almost like a corner in football, like a Jalen Ramsey, where he's going to be all in motion. He's going to lock down his guy. He's going to do his job there on that side of the ball, and that's what he loves. That's what he lives for. He lives for that defense. He lives for getting a 5 call or forcing a guy to get a travel or a double dribble or something like that, or just getting a flat-out steal. I mean, that's what he lives for there on that basketball team. You always need a guy like that who just loves defense, doesn't care how many points he scores, but he's a willing scorer when he has the opportunity. So he's one of those glue guys you need on a championship caliber team.
Xavier is a smart basketball player. I've had the opportunity to, both games that I've called for KZLX this season, talk to him post game. He just seems like a smart basketball player. He knows what's going out there, going on out on the floor. And when you've got Justin Pitts at the point, but you've also got another guy out there that is just as smart, just knows where to be at the right time, it really helps your team.
I think the difference, though, between Pitts and Kurth is Zave's not a point guard, obviously. We saw that against Fort Hays. He had his fair share of issues handling the basketball. But he is, I think I agree with you absolutely, Jacob, in what you said, that he is such a smart basketball player. He knows exactly where to be. He knows exactly where, both offensively and defensively.
He knows on offense, he knows what shots are his shots, the shots he should be taking. So you only see him take 4 or 5 shots a game, but they're really, really good shots.
Yeah, they're high percentage shots for him.
And this is a Missouri Western team. Like, man, I always want to look at Missouri Western. I think, Man, Northwest is just so much better. And they are, I think, talent-wise and statistical-wise. And I think that people from Missouri Western would even agree that we are better athletically. But you look at a 3-14 team who's on a 6-game losing streak. I mean, it's an absolute trap game at home. I mean, it's absolutely what it is. And like we've talked about, Ryan, this is a game where they want to rebound. This is where they want to establish their game. It's the perfect opportunity for Missouri Western to just mess it all up.
When I think you look at a game like this, and one of the challenges that Coach Mack has is to get his guys going and say, okay, you've got to bring it every week in this conference, no matter who you're playing, because if you slip up at the right time, anyone in the conference can beat you, even a team that's in last place and 1-9 in conference play.
And we're going to go quickly to the girls' side. They're going to play Missouri Western, who's also on a little bit of losing streak for both boys and girls. And, of course, Northwest women have lost, I think it's 15 in a row. Western, they're kind of struggling right now with the health thing down there. They got like 5 girls all they played versus Kearney last Saturday. And the 2 games before that versus Southwest Baptist, they finished the game with 4 girls on the court. So they're a team that's been really struggling as of late. So maybe Northwest can get an upset there. Then, of course, Lincoln next Thursday is also a very bottom of the conference team there. So maybe Northwest can finally get on the winning ways for the women's side over the next couple of games.
You know, Devin, I've been saying that for a couple weeks now.
Hey, gotta remain hopeful.
It depends.
Keep hope.
It depends entirely on which women's team shows up.
That's fair.
If the team that showed up in those first 3.5 quarters against Central Missouri shows up against Missouri Western, chalk it up as a win.
Or Kearney. They played well versus
Kearney. If the team
Kearney.
that showed up against Fort Hays shows up against Missouri Western, it's going to get ugly.
Yep.
Fast.
So
we'll
see what happens. But
the only question I have is because this is a rebuilding year, obviously.
yeah, a lot of freshmen.
Yeah, and he started Sheila started a lot of freshmen. I mean, I just hope that they give this guy another year because I really think that I don't know if Buck Sheila's a good or bad coach, and I don't think we know that either. But I do think what we do know is that Jalen Haggard is a really good basketball player.
Yeah.
And there are a few other girls that have pretty good basketball, have a lot of potential as well, but they're freshmen. I mean,
Right.
Jalen could start on a lot of rosters in this conference. Now, that's what his selling point is. Like, hey, I've got Jalen Haggard. But I just hope they give him another year at least because I think it's upsetting to me to think, man, we have to get rid of this. We have to get rid of the coach. He's been an intern coach for 1 year. He's been a head coach for 2 years. If we set the precedent that after 2 years, if you haven't fixed the program, that sets a really bad precedent for incoming coaches. And I feel like
in a really tough conference.
Yeah. And so I just think you can't look at results like you guys are looking at. I don't think you can look at wins and losses anymore. I think really what you have to look is how are they playing and what are they doing to fix some of the things that they've been doing wrong.
Well, and the bottom line is that this isn't a professional basketball league. This is not win or you are absolutely done. If you did not win so-and-so games or win a title, you're a failure. Because this at the bottom line, at the level that we're at in Division II basketball, this is all for these kids to learn. This is not to give you opportunities to play professional basketball in the future. This is not to go to the WNBA or the NBA or the NFL or wherever. This is to get these kids to learn. This is to get these kids ready for a career, to get these kids ready for what they're going to do. And I think regardless of result, the athletic department has to judge it based upon are the coaches getting these kids ready for life.
Yeah, so I hope they give Coach Shield another year or two. But one thing I want to do before we get out of this, you have something else to say about the girls' basketball team?
One more thing.
Yeah, go
also,
ahead.
if we want to give a Swanee star to someone on the girls' basketball team, we want to give that to Macy Williams. If we've been watching her all year, we're talking about a girl that was once starting.
Every game first 2 years, yeah.
And
then
then sat on the bench because she's part of the process. You talk about a girl that doesn't just pout. I mean, we talked about at the national championship how Jalen Hurts was a type of guy that really supported his Tao whenever he went in. Man, you look at Macy Williams. She is cheering on all her teammates every single play. She is constantly. She's the first one after every timeout. Every timeout, she's off the bench. She's making sure that everyone gets a congratulatory handshake, a pat on the back to make sure that they know what they're doing, and that's
showing leadership.
And I think there's a great player and then there's a great teammate, and I think most coaches would rather have the great teammate than a great player. And Macy Williams isn't a bad player either.
Yeah.
So.
And one thing before we leave here, before Isaiah leaves us, former X106 sports director and general manager Chris Roush is leaving KQ2 down here in close. He's going to Tennessee to take a job over there. And I know Isaiah and myself kind of know Chris personally, so we're going to actually tape this. We're going to send it to Chris and our thank you to what he's done to help us along the way. So I'm going to let you go first, Isaiah, to Chris.
Oh, didn't know we were doing this, but
on the spot.
All right, Chris. Man, I'll tell you what, this guy's a professional, and he set the standard for the Northwest Missouri area and how men like myself and other women report. He's professional, but not just professional. He's a person, and he's a person to you, and he's a person to me. And I've had a really great honor of just getting to know Chris. I'll never forget the way that he tweets at me. It may look like he's making fun of me. It may look like he's doing something that he probably shouldn't. He probably shouldn't anyway. But man, I like that guy, and I'm gonna miss him a lot because I think the reason he's moving is because he's great at what he does, and he deserves a job like this. So thanks, Chris.
Yeah, and what I want to say to Chris is he got me my first job when I was a college student at an actual TV station with KQ down there shooting highlights for Football Tonight. And I really want to thank Chris for giving me that opportunity and really helped me move forward and other stuff. He's been great just helping me anytime we need stuff back and forth. He's easy to talk to, and he's been just great to help me grow in this business. So I want to thank Chris for that, and good luck in Tennessee. You're going to do great down there because I don't know if there's anybody better than Chris in this area, what he does. I mean, he's just a great dude and just great what he does.
And I just want to say that, Chris is part of a fraternity / sorority, because we do have women, of former Bearcat Radio Network sideline reporters. But, when I was on the sideline a couple of seasons back, it was great to have Chris on the sideline, a guy that had done it before, to kind of, if I'm in a situation where I'm just not sure where to go, what I'm doing, I could look at Chris and see what's going on. And just a great personality to have on the sideline, somebody to keep things light, keep things, in a mood where, it's just keep it fun on the sideline. And that's one thing that Chris is really good at, and I'm excited to see where he's going to go with this in the future. So.
And
good luck to you, Chris.
You talked about there with the sideline reporting. I know Brent Barnett tweeted out a picture of him when he was doing that, then him now, and the caption there. And so Barnett had some fun with Chris there. That was entertaining as well. Those two are always fun on Twitter, back and forth.
He's a member of the clan with Matt Tritton, was a former sideline reporter. My older brother Matt Elliott, a former sideline reporter. Karen Lawrence, Jenny James now, Roush, Chris Barnett or Brett Barnett, Chris Roush. You know who I'm talking about. But those, it's something that we all share.
Next Sunday, we're all going to be coming together. We'll be building the Chris Roush Shrine. It'll be a statue outside of Wells Hall, and there will be a plaque dedicated to him and his future family. It's going to
be a statue made out of hair gel.
It is going to be a collective work by all students of the media department, and they all will be playing in the wet cement. So anyone that wants to come out and help, that'd be greatly appreciated.
All right, so that's our thank you to Chris. Thank you, Isaiah, for coming on talking Bearcat basketball. Here, we're going to take a break. And then what are we talking about next, guys? I don't even remember. Talking about, college basketball.
College basketball.
Do our picks there for Division I college basketball here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. And welcome back into the Weekend Sports Kickoff. I'm Devin Albertson, now joined by the original cast again, Trevor, Jacob, and Ryan.
The boys are back.
The boys are back.
Trevor said earlier, we're playing musical chairs today.
Me and Ryan didn't move, though.
No, we could if we wanted to.
Yeah, we could have.
Yeah.
I want to say,
I don't like that camera.
I've moved 3
That's
times
fair.
now.
Yeah.
That camera, that's the camera right here. But tomorrow, January 27th, Northwest Missouri State Bearcat basketball teams host rival Missouri Western. Wear your cleanest white shirt to Bearcat Arena for the annual whiteout game. Women's game starts at 1:30 with men following at 3:30. Prizes and giveaways will be available.
And
Ryan will be on the call.
If you can't make it, you can hear my wonderful voice for
also.
however long.
So what if you
last.
don't wear your cleanest white shirt?
Then you get kicked out.
Okay.
It's the clean as you can get. I mean,
no,
whatever.
You are not allowed. If there is a
It's
spot
gotta be
on your shirt, you
like
are not
no
allowed to
ketchup
attend
stains
the game.
or anything.
That's what you
And
just
if
gotta say.
spill
Like,
something,
this is my cleanest one.
If you spill something on your shirt,
This is my cleanest one. I promise. You should see what the rest of them look like.
If you spill something on your shirt during the game, you have to leave.
Also, KNWT is going to be doing the MIAA feed as well. So if you check it out there, give credit to KNWT for putting on that production for the MIAA network. They'll be using the Bearcat Radio Network for that feed, though, not us, so we don't care about them.
I believe they will. I haven't been told for sure. I hope at some point, if I am going to be used for the MIAA network, somebody tells me.
Get some royalties?
Well, so you know.
No, just so I know.
That way you're like, okay, this is not
But I
for
doubt that's
people
going to
listening.
happen. They'll probably use John and Matt, as they should. They're professionals. They actually do this for a living.
I actually
Yes, they
had
do.
that happen to me one time. I was covering a high school basketball
well,
game
John's a professional.
for a radio station.
I'm looking at you, Trenton.
I was covering a high school basketball game for a radio station one time, just doing updates in between each quarter, and I'd never done play-by-play before. I was like 17, and I call in the start of the fourth quarter, and it was like a 1-point game, and the producer was like, well, I just talked to our sports director, and if you want, you can just go play-by-play for the last quarter. And I'm like, all right, let me know when you want it. And he's looked at me. He just stopped for a second. He's like, we want it now. And I'm like, I have no stats. I didn't prepare.
Help.
Yeah, I was like,
Help.
I was like, I'm not ready for this. But I was like, all right, here goes nothing. So yeah, I would have liked to have known more than 2 seconds before they put me on the air.
But you know what? Now it's time for college basketball, where we
Yes.
all suck at picking games.
yeah,
Just a fair warning before this.
How did we do last week?
I think
Not
you
good.
guys all went
We
2
did
and
not get
3.
three.
I went 1 and 4 because I suck.
I wasn't paying. I wasn't keeping track.
The one game we
I
all
was
got right
frustrated.
was Ohio State at Minnesota. We all got that one right. I got every other game wrong. I picked Wichita State at Houston. Got it
Yeah,
wrong.
I think everyone got that wrong, right? Did anyone pick Houston?
We all picked Oklahoma at Oklahoma State. We all got that
Yeah.
wrong. I picked Seton Hall to beat Xavier. That didn't happen.
I picked.
And then you guys all
I
picked
Xavier.
Yeah,
I think I picked Xavier.
yeah. Everybody but me took Xavier because I'm an idiot.
And then,
And then-
was it TCU, K-State?
Yep. And I
And
picked
I
TCU.
wanted to go K-State.
I think
Did you pick K-State?
you go 3 and 2, didn't you?
Yeah, I picked K-State.
You went 3. You
Yeah.
jerk.
I wanted to pick K-State, but I couldn't do it.
Winning record for Jacob.
Yeah.
So the newbie on the show, beginner's luck, right, guys? That's
Oh,
what
yeah.
that's what we're gonna.
I never had
No, this is gonna be a common thing. Jacob's just gonna win all the picks.
Dang it!
Just with basketball.
It's gonna be like Sean. Like, you know, Sean's picks made no sense.
Yeah, and they
Like
all
Sean would
worked
be
out.
like, I'm taking the Jets to beat the Dolphins. We'd be like, okay, Sean, that makes, and then it happened. But
Yeah.
I'd make a logical pick, and people were like, oh, that's a stupid pick. So
What logic have you used before on the show? I haven't heard it yet.
yeah, I mean, true.
Iowa over Penn State.
Hey, that almost happened.
Almost
so
only
glad
counts
it
as
didn't.
horseshoes and hand
I did
grenades,
pick
my
last
friend.
year though. I did pick Iowa over Michigan, and I was right. Everyone laughed at me. I picked Iowa over Michigan and USC.
Iowa lost to North Dakota State last year.
They did. A lot of teams lost to North Dakota State last year.
Not
just
Division
not-
One.
Almost
Yeah,
everybody.
Not many Division
Not a
One
Big
schools.
Ten school.
Anyways, we're gonna pick some college basketball games.
Yeah, we're gonna start with
Nope.
in the state of North Carolina. North Carolina State at number 10. North Carolina. Looks like both our producers on the other side are taking North Carolina and Joe and Caleb. I'm gonna take the Tar Heels as well at
Did-
home in this one.
Did anybody pick NC State? I don't think so.
I'm gonna
This
take-
is at Chapel Hill.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
come
gonna
on,
take
North
Tar Heels.
Carolina.
It was a really slim picking of games this week. Okay, I had to go
That's
to
fair.
Monday
And
for the last
after
game.
losing to Virginia Tech on what was it, Tuesday? I think by now, I think having 5 days to think about losing to Virginia Tech, they're going to come out in Chapel Hill, and North Carolina's going to take care of business and get back on track.
Okay, so we're all taking North Carolina, the Tar Heels, in that one over the Wolfpack. This next game could be interesting to see what everybody picks, though. Number 2, Virginia at number 4, Duke. Both of our producers are taking Duke. I'm going to go the Blue Devils as well. We're going to go away from the Duke guy, but we're wearing the Duke jersey. Also, it's Jersey Day.
Yeah,
Those
we've
are
been on
wondering.
for an hour and 47 minutes, and this is the first time we've mentioned Jersey.
I've changed jerseys like 3 times. I haven't mentioned it yet on the show. But it is Jersey Day. So we go to Ryan and his spectacular Trent Green Tyreek Hill jersey.
So you ruined the surprise. The jersey today is Tyreek Hill in the back, but Trent Green in the front.
So is it like the mullet, like business in the front,
Yep.
party in the back?
That's exactly what it
I don't
is.
know that I
If
want to
you're
go to
in
a
front of me, it's a Trent
Yeah.
Green jersey. If you're behind me, obviously it has to be a
knows that
Tyreek
I
Hill
want-
jersey because you can see the name on
I don't
the
know
back.
that I want to go to a party that Tyreek
But-
Hill's at, but anyways.
Whatever.
We don't need to go there.
Anyways, who you got in this game?
Give me Duke. I think Virginia's got a great defense, but I think Duke might be the only team in the country that can reliably beat that Virginia defense. They're the best offense in the country, and I don't think Virginia just quite has it to beat Duke. I think Duke's going to come out. Coach K's going to have his team ready to go, and they're going to go.
About you, Jacob?
I've got Virginia in this game. Part of it is I still don't think Virginia's getting near enough national media attention for just how good this Virginia team is. Duke is the more talented team. I know it's at Duke, but I think Virginia, this is an opportunity for them to roll in to Cameron and tell the nation that they're a team that's going to fight for a national championship after what they did to Clemson on Tuesday, what they did to Clemson. They won 61-36. I think they'll roll in there, and they will take care of Duke. I know Duke's more talented, but I think the key to this game is going to be the number 65. If the game is played to 65 points and under, Virginia wins.
Oh, I was going to say, who wears number 65?
I was like, do they have a tackle playing?
I don't think you can do that.
Is there going to be a tackle eligible?
I think you have to have 5 or under.
And if the game is played 65 points and above into the 70s, Duke ends up winning the game. But I think Virginia's defense will hold it right around 63, and it'll be a 63-61. It's going to be.
That's a fantastic point.
So, Trevor, are you going to take Virginia?
So, man,
wouldn't that be awesome?
So you got the number 1 adjusted offense and your number 2 adjusted offense in Duke, and the number 1 adjusted defense.
For pace.
What are we adjusting it for?
Yeah,
for pace.
Tempo. Kempom.com. It's a great side. Number 1 adjusted defense against number 2 adjusted offense in Cameron. Virginia never has really played well against Duke these last 4 or 5 years. I think that Duke's offense is good enough to kind of find holes in Virginia's defense, and I don't know that Virginia's offense is good enough to find the gaping holes in Duke's defense. So, and I'm wearing a Duke jersey. Sko Dukies.
You got JJ Redick on over there.
JJ Redick.
Also, they finally put the odds up for the weekend's games, and North Carolina was a 14-point favorite, so 2 touchdowns in basketball, and Duke was a 4.5-point favorite in their game versus Virginia. So we go to the next game here on the docket. We have number 12, Oklahoma at Alabama. Should be a pretty good guard matchup either way. Both of our producers taking Oklahoma. I'm going to cheat off them, take Oklahoma too. Trey Young playing well right now. Had the couple games there where it was a little bit ugly, but he figured it out versus Kansas. Got the win there against the Jayhawks. Oklahoma's a 2-point road favorite in this one. Trevor?
I'm going to take Oklahoma as well. Colin Sexton I don't think is quite at 100%. I think this would be an even more interesting matchup if he was. But Trey Young could score like a gajillion points in this game. So, and that's what it takes for him to win. I mean, literally, if he's not scoring, he scored 48 points and they lost. So he's obviously a difference maker. I think he's able to do it this weekend. Give me Boomers Sooner in what should have been the college football playoff national championship game.
I've got Oklahoma as well, and when picking,
we're playing basketball here.
Yeah,
we are.
Wrong sport.
Fired.
When picking this game, it did for me come down to the fact that Colin Sexton is not there. I mean, that point guard matchup would have been great to watch, but when you look at the stats between these two teams, Oklahoma bleeds in about every single stat, and with Trey Young at the point, I don't think Alabama has any firepower to slow him down, and Oklahoma will take an easy win.
I don't believe in the SEC. Oklahoma.
SEC.
That's about as kind of short as you can get with that and be basically 100% accurate.
So yeah, I'm taking Oklahoma. I already said that earlier. But next game we have on the docket is Kentucky at number 7, West Virginia. Who wants to guess the spread for this game?
Oh boy,
West Virginia by 9.
Kentucky.
What's the spread? Do you think, Ryan?
Kentucky drew the short end of the stick on this one in the SEC.
The
Big
SEC
12
drew
challenge,
the-
man.
Yes, I think the SEC got kind of.
I think the SEC.
I think the two best teams, or two of the best
got
teams
screwed here.
in the SEC, Auburn, Mizzou, that I think would have had a legitimate chance based on the matchup to win, aren't in the challenge.
But yeah, no. If
year.
anyone drew the worst, if anyone drew the worst straw here, it was Kentucky, because Morgantown's an impossible place to play basketball for anyone ever. I'm going to go with the spread being West Virginia by 3.
What do you think, Jacob? Just a random number out there. Just throw something out there.
With you asking, I think it's probably somewhere like around 3 or 4, and we all think it probably should be higher than that.
It's 10.
I said 9.
Really?
It's a 10-point spread in West Virginia.
What did you say, Ryan?
3.5.
I said I was close.
Hey, and you were still under, so the Price is Right rule.
Yeah,
you
what
still
do
win.
I win? Do I get rehired?
Come on down.
We're not sure yet. Well,
Wait, no, apparently that already happened.
I'm gonna take West Virginia in this.
I think we all are.
I don't.
Yeah.
This is not your grandpa's
No.
Kentucky team.
And even if it were, man, in Morgantown.
Well, if it was your grandpa's Kentucky team, that'd be an old Kentucky team.
Well,
But,
yeah, they wouldn't be.
I mean,
they wouldn't be able to keep up. I don't think.
well,
Virginia.
I mean, if you can't keep up with West Virginia's offense, then man,
This Kentucky team is too young to handle West Virginia. I think this is going to be a very good game for Kentucky for the rest of the season, because I think it's a game where Kentucky can grow up quickly. I know that Calipari's been talking about these guys have to, they're a bunch of really young freshmen. It's the youngest team Kentucky, Calipari's ever had. And going in there, I think after 40 minutes, it's going to be an ugly game for Kentucky, but they're going to learn so much about themselves that this game might make them scary come tournament time.
Yeah, give me West Virginia. I just think the press defense, press Virginia, is going to get to that young Kentucky team. They're just not going to be able to handle it. And West Virginia is so good at what they do. But Kentucky will have an opportunity if they can get West Virginia in foul trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But only if they can get West Virginia in foul trouble. If they can't, it's going to be a rough day.
And Carter's a man at point guard. There's a full-grown man there at point guard.
I swear, that dude's been playing for like 39 years. Like he's not
Perry Ellis.
No,
he's not quite
like,
there.
He is like the Perry Ellis.
Not quite. Perry Ellis Jr.
He looks like it. The dude looks like he's 30.
It happens. Okay, I'm 13.
I am 12.
I am 12. Does anyone think West Virginia covers the spread of 10 points?
Yeah. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say so. I think it'll be close kind of until maybe halftime. But I'm going to say West Virginia by...
The press wears them down?
I think
15.
West Virginia at some point in this game will have a 20-point lead. The game will end up somewhere around 11, 12, 13 points, but at some point West Virginia will have a 20-point
I'm going to say West Virginia leads by like 7 going into the half, and they get it up to like 18 or 21 and win by 15.
What about you, Ryan?
I'll go with Trevor here and say 15 or so.
All right, I think West Virginia covers because they're playing at home, and that's just impossible. That young Kentucky team is just not good enough.
Morgantown's an awful
And
place.
Kentucky
that's
down
tough for
here.
a great team to play.
Yeah, for a good Kentucky team, it'd be a decent thing, but this is not a good Kentucky team this year. Last game on Monday, we had to go to Monday to find a good game here, but it's a pretty good one. Number 5 Kansas at Kansas State. We got some votes in the last poll. Kansas State playing well. They knocked off some teams here as of late in the Big 12. They're a dangerous team. We'll go to you first, Trevor, on this one. I know the guys across the window, they're both taking Kansas. Jayhawks, what are you taking?
I'm going to go with Kansas State against my better judgment. They're playing really well. Barry Brown's playing well. Dean Wade's been shooting well, which is what they have him to do. I know they don't have Kamal Stokes at the moment, so that was kind of a concern for them when he went down, but they're playing pretty well without him. This is kind of a trap game for Kansas. Obviously, they didn't win in Lawrence earlier this year. Kansas State didn't, but the last 4 times they've played in Manhattan, Kansas State won in 14 and 15. Kansas has won the last 2, so got to think maybe it's Kansas State's time and they can kind of catch Kansas napping, and maybe they'll just poke-a-doke the entire game.
Poke-a-doke.
I have K-State winning this game as well, and if K-State handles Georgia, they'll probably roll into this game right inside the top 25. They might find their way into the rankings, and with what's happened the last 2 years at Allen Fieldhouse to K-State, they're going to want to make sure to win and go 1-1 with Kansas, and if K-State does win that game, it opens up the Big 12 into a much more
Will they have a
interesting
tie for the
landscape.
lead if they?
Yep.
Yes.
I thought they were what, like a half a game out? Or
Kansas was up 2.
Were they a game?
They were up 2, and then when they lost to Oklahoma, now they're up 1, and then they end up losing to K-State. It'll all be
A mess.
a mess.
It'll be a mess. It'll be Kansas, West Virginia, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, K-State, all with the 2 to 3 losses.
Do people still want Bruce Weber fired?
I don't. It's Manhattan. It's Kansas. Who knows? What do you think, Ryan?
Let me point out a flaw in your logic here.
Ooh, let's go. Flaw in Trevor's logic. I'm all for it.
The Kansas Jayhawks will never overlook a game at Manhattan, Kansas. No. Never. Ever. In the history of Bill Self coaching at Kansas, will they ever overlook a game in Manhattan, Kansas? Self's going to have his guys ready to play for this game, and I think Kansas State is a good basketball team. I don't think they're good enough. I think if Kansas comes out ready to play and they come out playing the way they can, and can be as physical as he can be down low, which is what he should be able to do against Kansas State, then this is a game that Kansas shows up and they prove to everybody why they're still in the conversation.
And I'm not backtracking on my pick. I'm still picking K-State, but with that, Kansas has seen them. They already saw K-State play with them at Allen Fieldhouse, challenge them, almost win. They're going to be ready for
3-pointer away from.
Yeah.
So
Kansas will be ready to go in there and play K-State. I still think K-State will win the game, but Kansas will be ready.
Here's a real question, because the last time they beat Kansas State in Manhattan, or Kansas in Manhattan, they stormed the court. Do they do that again if they beat them?
Yeah, why
That's
not? It's fun.
stupid. That's dumb.
I love storming the
Especially
court.
'cause
To what, storm the
K-State-
court?
You don't storm the court in a rivalry game.
I would. For
No.
Kansas, I would.
No, you storm the court when you beat the number 1 ranked team at home and you're unranked.
They're number 5.
Well, they are unranked.
But
Like I said,
it's a rivalry game.
if K-State ends
You don't
up
storm the court.
If Kansas was number 1, I would totally get it too. But
maybe
I get where you're coming from. At the same time, who cares?
when
I'm
because that
for it.
game's always close.
Kansas
Yeah,
is
it's
going
never-
to fall
you know.
in the rankings just a little bit. K-State
Yeah.
might end up in the
Well, yeah,
rankings.
especially
you
by
might
the time
have a
Monday rolls
you
around.
might have a 11,
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
ranked.
Yeah,
team
if you're
up
going
against a
10,
22,
22,
23
then
ranked
you
team.
don't.
You don't storm the court.
But if it's 3 and unranked,
Yeah. But that's not going to be the case. So.
no, it's not.
Yep. Does Kansas keep their big man in late to shoot free throws if it comes down to it? As a bouquet.
I don't know. I mean,
If I said that right, I hope so.
as a bouquet.
You did. Yeah, you're good.
Yes.
Udoka, right?
Yep.
Udoka as a
You
bouquet.
just call him Doke if you want.
I don't know. I mean, Mitch Lightfoot's been playing pretty well. For
Oh,
him.
Mitch.
I mean, which has been a surprise to a lot of people. But I don't know. I mean, Ryan.
Sean, if you're watching,
yeah,
man,
I'm
that
sure
was
he's
for you.
not doing anything better. But him and I were going back and forth Monday night talking. Was it Monday night the game was or Tuesday night? It was Tuesday night.
It was Tuesday.
And
yes, it was.
he was talking about. I was like, why don't they just put Lightfoot in? And he did inform me that he was not the guy in Kansas in their dorm room offering free throw lessons there. Did you guys see that?
That
Yeah.
was
I
one
asked-
of the coolest stories I've read in a long time.
I don't know, like.
Okay, what happened? I didn't hear
So
this.
they had a dude that come into Kansas's like their basketball players' dorm room. I think it was like Wednesday morning, and was like offering up free throw advice. Now I have a lot of questions. Like, is the dude qualified to give free throw advice? Like, who is this dude? If he's if he was a good high school basketball player,
You show up and you shoot 9 of 10 from the free throw line.
yeah,
And then you can give free throw advice.
You know what? I'd even go 8 of 10. I'd go 8 of 10.
Maybe.
I mean, for
The problem is
Azubuike,
10 is a small sample size.
I mean, for Azubuike, 4 out of 10, you're still shooting better than what he
Well,
is.
man, if he makes 2 of them, would he go 0 for 6 down the stretch?
It's rough.
I mean, if he makes 2 of them, that's a totally different game because it totally changes how Oklahoma plays.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Bill Self would be smart enough to maybe not put him in that situation, but at the same time, he's probably already kind of got his game plan logged in.
Mhm.
I mean, and is it worth it to have him out there and know they're going to foul him, but then know that he's also a force defensively?
Yeah.
So which one do you want to give up?
And if you take him out of the game due to free throw issues, you honestly are going to strip all the confidence away from him for the rest of the season.
Should
you
he
need
go-
him to get better at free throws, not question himself when you get to tournament time and Big 12.
Here's a
tournament time later
legitimate
in the
question
season.
that everyone is saying no to, and I don't understand why. Should he go granny shot?
Why, if it works,
Like
effectiveness
it's
is
gonna
better
work.
than cool.
Like if it's gonna work, like why not? Because like who cares? Like
If it goes in, who cares?
yeah, like at the end of the day, like even if because let's just shoot now like 41%.
37.5%.
Okay, even if it brings them up to 50%,
It's an improvement.
that's a 12.5%, 13% improvement. Who cares if it's sexy or not? You're scoring points. You know what? That's a lot better than sitting on the bench
Airballing free throws.
in the tournament because you can't be trusted to make your free throws down the stretch.
Yeah, definitely. And I have made my pick for this game. I am a known Kansas hater, very little respected in that regard. But I'm taking K-State in this one, maybe
Tell
because
us how you really feel.
I can't pick Kansas. I just can't do it personally. So I'm going to take Kansas State to pull off the upset.
That was the most biased thing. I like.
Yes.
That
Yeah,
was,
they at least gave reasons.
Like,
You're
I-
just like, nope, not
Nope.
getting it.
like I hope like
it's in Kansas State. They've knocked off Oklahoma
wish we
and
would've-
TCU at home.
I wish we would
They
have
can do the
picked
same thing in
like Kansas and Gardner Webb earlier this year because I would have loved to see them. Nope, can't pick Kansas. I gotta pick Gardner Webb.
Well, you know what? That came around whenever
I know they're a 31-point underdog at home, but
whenever it came around for the they released some bracketology, and the Mizzou and Kansas were on the same side of the bracket.
bracketology.
Bracketology, and it said Kansas playing Radford and Mizzou would play Miami. I'm like, can't wait for
So,
Mizzou Radford. I mean, just the way it is.
Are you gonna pick Stetson to beat Kansas in the first round?
Probably not.
I don't even know if Stetson's gonna be in the tournament. I'm guessing
Probably
probably
not.
not.
I'm gonna go
The
doubtful.
Manhattan Jaspers,
They actually had a couple good teams in the mid.
the Ospreys of North Florida.
I might pick Bucknell, but that's beside the point.
You shut your mouth, sir.
or Northern Iowa.
See, that's the one thing I miss about
See,
the
that
show.
one I'm okay with.
Is if Taylor Damon was here, he would just already might throw me
He'd
through
be
the glass
crying.
at this point. So he gets really
Bucknell
mad
hurt.
when you call it a big gym.
Northern Iowa was, you almost felt it coming at that
Farouk
point.
Manesh.
They were, that was a different thing.
So yeah,
But anyway,
And Kansas State has played really well at home this year, knocking off Oklahoma and TCU in the last couple of home games to get Georgia this weekend. So they're playing really well at home. So I'm going to trust them to win this home game versus Kansas State. So there's a reason they are at home, and they played Kansas tough on the road there. It's kind of, they said.
There's a mentality.
So
you
mentality.
You said you would never pick Kansas.
I wouldn't.
If this game
in these picks, I will not put a game where Kansas is definitely going to win in these picks.
If this game was in Allen Fieldhouse,
it wouldn't be in the picks. I got an out for this.
Some weaseling.
Yeah, for real.
That's the benefit of being the host of the show.
Yeah.
Make the rundown.
Well, can we all vote and fire Devin? Can we make if we all vote yes,
just for the college basketball
segment, then he's outnumbered.
Just for the college basketball.
I'll sit out. I won't even make a pick. I'm gonna choose not to pick a game. Any teams in the top 5 that you are either worried about or have a lot of faith in? Nova, Virginia, Purdue, Duke, Kansas.
I think the team that I think looks like the best team right now, other than Nova. I think it's their 2 best teams are Nova and Purdue. I think Purdue. It's weird because they lost Caleb Swan again, and I didn't know what they were going to be. Isaac Haas is playing well. The Edwardses are playing really, really well. I think if the tournament started today, I might pick Purdue to win it all.
I can't pick Purdue because there's that one glaring flaw of if you manage to get Isaac Haas in foul trouble, you kind of take away what they do best, and if you can take away what a team does best, you've got a good chance. I think that's the one issue with Purdue. They don't have many others. They're a very good basketball team. I think if you look at those 5 teams, I think Villanova's probably the best.
Most
just
consistent
overall. Virginia's got the best defense. Duke's got the best offense. Purdue's probably got the best big man.
But when you look at actual efficiency, Purdue is more efficient on both sides of the ball. I mean, they're ranked second or third in defensive efficiency and 7th in offensive efficiency.
You and your stats. Get out of here.
Yeah, how dare me bring in statistics.
Facts. Jeez.
Let's see. Purdue has the 3rd most efficient offense behind Villanova and Duke. And they've dropped off a lot. Oh, that's tempo, not defense. I was like, why is Savannah State and Citadel have the number? And they have the 10th most efficient defense. Villanova's is down the line a little bit at 26, which is still a lot higher than Duke's, 60 places higher than Duke's. But
this Villanova team just, to me, gives me this feel that they're in the Big East. They're going to do really well in the regular season. They just don't seem like a dominant tournament team right now. The team that I think come March is Duke has the most talented roster in the country. It's just, can they put it all together? And I think Villanova, we're going to see a early exit from them.
I'd be fine with a Duke-Purdue national
I don't
championship.
trust
That would be an interesting game.
I don't trust Duke because the freshman teams never do it.
You're not wrong.
That's a good point.
The freshman teams never do it. You know who's going to get scary?
Don't be
come
tripping.
that
They got
time?
Grayson Allen.
You know who's going to be scary come that time is going to be West Virginia.
Yep.
Yeah.
With that defense, and they have a better ability to score than Virginia does anyway.
Yeah.
They're going to be scary. West Virginia's going to be scary. There's going to be you talk about.
I think Xavier's scary.
Xavier's going to be scary.
I think Xavier. I think this will be they get the Final Four.
Last year
Maybe.
was wide open for anyone to really go in and win.
Yeah.
I think this year's even more wide open. I think
which is insane.
20, 25 teams that
And you
we
still-
don't know. That
And you
could
still
end up
have a guy
winning
like
the
Trae Young in
championship.
Oklahoma who can make a run.
There isn't a dominant team in college. I mean, Villanova is the best team in college basketball.
Gonzaga.
And we've just discussed their flaws. I think Purdue's the second best team. We've discussed their flaws. Virginia, Duke, go down the line.
And you look. I mean, even you look at Michigan State. I mean, it's hard to root for Michigan State right now.
yeah,
but
no, it's really.
I'm not going to root for Michigan State, but they are a threat.
Yeah, definitely.
They're going to have
right
it
in there.
revoked
You also
almost
have-
immediately. But
Yeah.
Ohio
if
State
they do win it,
Ohio State could be kind of dangerous too. If
Get North Carolina, Arizona. You got some teams in there that are borderline.
except for the buzzer-beating loss to Penn State
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah, that's tough,
And
but
that's
it
where
happens.
It just comes to the point that it just does not seem like anyone wants to.
No one wants to win.
No one wants to win. No one wants to be the team that everyone's looking at being the top dog in college
It's
basketball.
been terrible to be a top
Well,
three
that's-
team this year.
so we went. So I remember
They haven't fared well.
last fall. Jacob and Sean and I did our first college basketball podcast, and we all picked our national champions.
Highly rated.
And Sean,
Got 12% on Rotten Tomatoes.
that's like 10% more than I thought we got. Sean
More
picked-
than the Emoji movie.
So Sean, that
Sorry,
doesn't
TJ
surprise me.
Miller.
Anyways,
So
You're watching.
Sean picked Duke, which actually right now looks like the best. You want to tell them who you picked, Jacob?
I picked Wichita State.
Oops.
Yeah.
See,
Best team in Kansas last year.
With that, it just there's still you don't know what these teams are going to look like come March.
I picked.
Yeah.
I'm still not. I don't still see that being a bad pick. It just
No.
doesn't look good right now.
I picked Florida.
Oops.
Which like the same time like I don't. They could be scary if they piece it together.
Yeah, they're going to be a scary tournament team that rolls in as an 8 seed.
I'll tell you one
in the
thing.
Final Four.
I'll tell you one thing.
They're fun to watch.
They're going to play basketball.
Yeah, but they could be a team that rolls in as like Jacob said, a 7 seed or an 8 seed, and make the Sweet 16 or something. But that pick looked a lot better in November than it does now.
And there's and about that Wichita State pick, they're going to be there.
Yeah.
But Wichita State is one of those teams that just never seems to quite have that one thing to take them over the top.
Same with Gonzaga. I mean, really, up until last year,
They were screwed last year.
No, they weren't. They couldn't shoot the ball. Don't complain about the rest when
I
you
will
shoot
complain about
like
the rest.
20%.
I will.
With
half.
Wichita State, ever since they made the Final Four, they've been looked at as they've got the ability to make it back, and they
just haven't.
always find there's always they just
And that
don't
was-
show up for a game.
And that was Villanova for years as well. They were kind of in that same little area where they were really good, but they didn't quite trust them late in the tournament.
Well, it's the same concept that everybody picks George Mason when they're in the tournament to upset somebody. Everybody picks Florida Gulf Coast when they're in the
Middle
tournament
Tennessee.
Dunk
to
City.
upset somebody. Exactly.
If Norfolk State
Even-
ever makes it back.
Yeah, even if they're not going to do that this year.
And the only reason I made that pick is because they're in the American this year.
Yeah.
I thought that would change, just the outlook on everything and change it a little bit, but they still just seem to have that same problem they've had the last 3-4 years.
And unfortunately, the American is not as good as a lot of people thought it was going to be.
Yeah. So that's going to be it for our basketball segment. We were going to do about a Pro Bowl, make it better, but we decided there's nothing we can do to make it better.
Stop.
Is
Just
end it.
don't.
Or like I said, one thing you could do is just make it like a 7-on-7 tournament for charity, like a flag football tournament. I mean, why not?
Or just do the skills challenge.
Yeah,
Because that's the way more entertaining than the actual Pro Bowl.
Yeah. I love
right.
watching those guys try to
All right.
not try to tackle.
Trevor, since we talked about the XFL today, our send out to you.
Yes. And I love the Jerry the King Lawler at the end. What? I love that. I'm glad that this is how I could be fired. Now I just wish that we could get him to say you're hired too for next week.
Sorry.
But-
we might rehire you for next week.
Okay.
We'll see.
Questionable. Check on Twitter to see if Trevor's back next week. So thank you, Trevor. Where are you heading tonight?
I'm headed up to Council Bluffs, Iowa. I'm going to spend the whole weekend up there, actually. Basketball tonight and good old wrestling. Not the kind you can hear with Kramer and Devin and Jonathan.
The real kind.
The unscripted kind.
Or so we think, anyway.
Yeah, it's not quite as entertaining, but it's not scripted. But
or so we think.
I don't know.
It's Iowa. You
I
never
haven't
be
seen
too sure.
I haven't seen a lot of RKOs or anything, and I'm waiting for it. But
Somebody to just
so
screw the rules, man.
Yeah.
Huh?
I mean, if you suck and you're going to get
Taking
disqualified,
somebody
if you
out.
know you're not going to win, why
Yeah.
not just get disqualified, right?
Yeah.
But no, I'm headed up to Council Bluffs, going to go watch some basketball, eat some food, and watch some wrestling tomorrow. So
All right.
Sweet.
Well, have some fun. We will see you later, probably next week. Most likely next week. We're still
Hopefully.
questionable. Hopefully.
yeah.
And we're going to take a break and be back with more here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. And welcome back into the Weekend Sports Kickoff. I'm Devin Albertson, joined by Ryan Elliott, Jacob Blair, and Noah Cooper from Dropping Dimes on the show we had yesterday here at X106. And Noah, I'll tell you what, I listened to the show. You guys sounded great yesterday. That was a great first show.
Hey, we had a great first show. We had a good time, and we're ready to do another one next week.
You guys had the Twitter poll, and by the way, you totally beat Perry in your pick'ems for the All-Star game. I'm just saying.
I looked at it a few hours ago, and I think I was ahead 51-49 still. So
Ooh, it's close,
It's
but
close
you had
right
it.
now, but
You had it right there. That was a
We're
fun
doing it
show
right now.
yesterday. And before we go into NBA discussion, I just announced a few minutes ago, the Chiefs are going to put Tony Gonzalez into the Ring of Honor there in Arrowhead. I believe also it means retiring his number, which means Tony Gonzalez. No one else will get number 88, so you won't see any more tweets from me saying Ross Travis should not be wearing 88, also because Ross Travis was cut. That's beside the point. So Tony Gonzalez going to Arrowhead into the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame for the Chiefs.
Absolutely 100% deserving. Tony Gonzalez, when he retired, in my opinion, was the greatest tight end of all time. And may very well still be. I know people talk about Antonio Gates, and there's a lot of discussion there, and they're relatively neck and neck at this point. But in my opinion, when he retired, he was the greatest tight end of all time, and I think having spent as long as he did with the Kansas City Chiefs, he 100% deserves to have that 88 in the Ring of Honor with so many other great legends of the Kansas City Chiefs franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I just remember, being a younger kid, being able to watch him, and it was like the one, player watching the Chiefs. You knew he was a superstar. You knew he was great.
it was Tony G.
Yep.
It was Tony G, and always get a touchdown. Here comes the goalpost dunk. I mean, here it came, and the NFL outlawed that. It was like, good thing Tony retired because he was still probably would have done it.
Oh, absolutely.
And took the fines. So Tony G, definitely a staple for the Chiefs organization. Just a great dude overall. I know he's on Fox Sports now and talks football there and on all those shows, and he does a great job over there talking football. So he's doing great post-career, it looks like, and he'll be in Kansas City in the fall, get his jersey retired, and also up in the Ring of Honor. Before we get into the NBA talk, though, I want to play this one little thing for an introduction with Noah coming on the show.
Drip, drip, drop.
Dropping dimes.
Baby Dame Dollar here, trailblazing dimes everywhere. I don't want to boast, but I'm dropping dimes from coast to coast. Dropping dimes everywhere, like I just don't care. I'm dropping dimes on the bike, on the stairs. I'm even dropping dimes on my teddy bear.
So that's a little introduction for Noah. When Perry gets on here, probably next week, we'll make sure he hears that too. So,
Well, see, I was thinking maybe we have to have Dame. Maybe we should talk to him, see if we can use that as our intro or something.
it's on YouTube. We'll take it.
Yeah, we'll hit him up on Twitter and see what happens.
So you guys had a great show yesterday, and just the All-Star game. They came out with the starters for each team, and what do you think of the picks for both LeBron and Steph?
Looking at them right after they came out, I immediately thought, LeBron, it looked like he had the way better team. I think that was the consensus from both analysis, for both analysts and from, both your average fan too. A lot of people thought LeBron had the better team, but I noticed that Steph, he kind of kept teammates together a little bit. He put Towns and Butler together. He tried to keep all of his Warrior teammates together, and I really liked how he was kind of loyal to teammates that made it to the game.
And I think that's going to provide maybe a slight advantage for Steph because he's going to have I think his team's going to gel a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. They all know how to play well together and
Yeah.
everything. I think that's really good for Steph to do something like that.
Yeah, the starting lineups for each team. For Steph's team, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo, of course, Steph Curry, DeMar DeRozan, Joel Embiid, and James Harden. For LeBron, of course, it's LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, and DeMarcus Cousins. So, obviously, everybody knows LeBron with the first pick took Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty obvious there. He also took Kyrie Irving later on in that first round of the draft. So, it's a nice little olive branch to Kyrie Irving and say, hey, you're going to be on my team. I wish they would have been televised so I would have known where these players were picked. I'm pretty sure DeRozan was the last starter taken. I'm pretty sure that was the case.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was. See, my gripe with the whole thing was I kind of thought that was the whole point of having, the draft where the players got to pick it is so they're televised and so the fans can see it and it can be some big show. And I think in the future it will be televised. A lot of people are saying it's because of the players' union why they couldn't televise it now. But I think going towards the future, if not next year, at least in the coming years, they're going to have the draft televised.
Yeah, and LeBron tweeted out afterwards with Steph saying it was fun doing that with you. And, of course, LeBron joked afterwards that Westbrook was the last overall pick just to mess with Westbrook a little bit there. So just went back and forth. The bench players for Steph's team, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Al Horford, Damian Lillard, Kyle Lowry, Klay Thompson, Karl Anthony Towns. For LeBron, LaMarcus Aldridge, Bradley Beal, Kevin Love, Victor Oladipo, Kristaps Porzingis, John Wall, and Russell Westbrook. I know you and Perry yesterday were making fun of Al Horford being on the All-Star games a little bit. Do you think he maybe got snubbed a little bit here? Who would be the biggest snub that you would have inserted into the East or West lineups?
I think one of the biggest snubs that Perry and I both talked about was both Paul George and Lou Williams. I mean, Paul George is one of the leaders on that Thunder team. He's averaging 20 points a game, 5 rebounds. He's the league leader in steals. He's a prime defensive player of the year candidate. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins that. So I think he'd be rightfully deserving as an all-star. And Lou Williams, he's been leading that Clippers team. We talked yesterday that they've had Danilo out for pretty much the whole year, so he'd be a starter. Blake's been out half the year, another starter. They've had a lot of injuries on their team. Patrick Beverley's been out. He would have been another starter. And with all those players out, Lou Will averaging 23 a game. He's really leading that Clippers team to possibly a late playoff push. Before, when all those players went out, no one really thought they'd have a chance to make the playoffs, but they're really doing good with Lou on their team performing so well.
And who would you have taken out for the West for either one of those guys that they would have been in over the All-Stars for the Western Conference?
Well, see, that's a tough question because I think every player is deserving of a bid that made the team, and there would have to be a few snubs. I don't really think there's anyone you could necessarily take out and be like, yes, they're not an all-star. I think everyone's deserving of an all-star bid, but I think if a player gets injured, like I know Jimmy Butler's injured right now, I don't know how long that's going to continue for. I think he's been out for about a week with this knee injury, and normally, knee injuries, they take quite a while to heal up from. So I think if he does miss time to the all-star game, then Jimmy Butler would be taken out.
And then when it first came out, I thought Paul George should have been over Draymond Green. I thought that would have been the decision I would have made. But, of course, Draymond, of course, with the defensive intensity as well as Paul George, they gave him the fourth warrior to get into the All-Star game. I know Russell Westbrook voiced his displeasure about that again and again. He also took a shot at Damian Lillard, which I was not okay with. Damian Lillard has been deserved to be an All-Star for the last couple of years, so I didn't like what Westbrook did there. But then Eastern Conference, I know you guys probably pretty much settled on Al Horford was the least deserving guy in the Eastern Conference. Who would you rather seen get in over him in the East?
If I had to pick someone specifically, I'd probably say Andre Drummond, just because the stat line he's putting up this year, we haven't seen since someone like Wilt Chamberlain did it back in his later career. And he's averaging 14 points a game and 15 rebounds a game. And I know the Pistons are kind of on a slide right now, but without Andre Drummond, I don't really know what the Pistons franchise would be at all. He's really improved his free throw shooting this year. He's really improved his game all around. But he has been an all-star before, so it's not something that he hasn't ever experienced. I just think that he might have been more deserving over Al Horford. But to give Al Horford some credit, he is leading the league in a lot of the advanced metric categories. I talked about this yesterday: true shooting percentage for a big man, win shares, real plus minus, stuff like that. So he is contributing to his team in a lot of ways, and I think that's kind of what the coaches look for when they vote in stars, as people who contribute to their team on the offensive and defensive side of the floor. So I think he's deserving too, but I'd definitely throw maybe Andre Drummond, maybe throw Ben Simmons in that category too as another possible one.
Yep. So Ben Simmons, he was another one that was also the kind of the snub, and he'll make plenty of All-Star games in the future as he's a budding star, right there. So if you would have, if anyone wants to do this, anyone wants to rank who had the better overall team between LeBron and Curry, I'd probably lean more with LeBron, even though I'm wearing Giannis right now. I just think he's got both the Pelicans guy with Cousins and Davis.
Confusing, Devin.
I'm really confusing. But, of course, LeBron and Kyrie have played together. And Kevin Durant, you're the best two players in the world on the same team with Durant and LeBron. That's just going to be the advantage. I know Steph has a little more shooting with him. Harden, even Embiid can shoot as a big. And then some of those bench guys with Lillard and Klay Thompson can really shoot the ball at a high rate. So I think back and forth, I'm going to go with LeBron's team. Also, I'm a LeBron guy, so I'm going to go with LeBron's team here. It's a little bit more talented top to bottom.
Yeah, I think I go with LeBron on a talent standpoint, but I think what Noah mentioned with keeping some teammates together, Steph's team might gel a little bit better, at least at first. I think once they get in a rhythm on the floor, though, I think LeBron's talent's going to be the deciding factor there, because there's just a little bit more talent, I think, in between the two on LeBron's team.
Yeah, I got to go with LeBron's team as well. And one thing about the All-Star game, which is completely different than the Pro Bowl on the NFL side, is the All-Star game, it's not necessarily, all-out basketball, but it's still fun to watch.
Yeah.
And I think that with what you have on LeBron's team, they're going to play to that. You're going to see some, antics a little bit between that team, but they're going to go out there, have fun with each other, and they've got a little bit more, all-star style basketball on that LeBron team that can go have a little bit more fun with the style of basketball that's played for that game.
Yeah, and definitely. I know Steph Curry said beforehand he wouldn't take Giannis just so he didn't get dunked on again this year. And, of course, he has Giannis on his team, so that should be fun to see kind of Giannis play with some other stars there with Steph Curry. Who, I know you guys talked about it a little bit yesterday, but who, now that you've seen both teams kind of constructed the way they are, who do you think could possibly get this All-Star Game MVP? Because it's really, and in the end, it's like no one really cares about the game. Who's going to get the 200 points first?
Yeah.
So who do you think could possibly
over under 400 in
put a great performance out there and possibly snab the All-Star Game MVP?
If I had to pick someone, I'm picking Russell Westbrook. I know he's already won it before, but he's the type of player who he doesn't really care if it's if he's playing in the summer, if it's a pickup game, if it's the NBA Finals, if it's a regular season game on a Sunday afternoon, if it's the All-Star game. He's gonna be going hard no matter what. Russell Westbrook is going to be firing up a whole bunch of shots. I know he's not in that starting lineup, so that might hurt him a little bit in terms of play time. But, I think the coaches, they'll throw him out there and let him play, and I think Russell Westbrook would be a prime MVP candidate.
Is it still a fan vote for that?
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Okay. I know it used to be, but anyway, I still think my pick's Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think he's going to go out and put out a show. And so if it were to be a fan vote, I think he's going to go out and put out a show for the fans.
Well, and don't quote me on that either.
And then if it's not a fan vote, it's going to go and what in the world? Oh, sorry. If it's not a fan vote, then it's going to go out. He's going to go out and put out a show for whoever's watching. I think he's going to go out and show his incredible athletic ability. And I think half of it's stat lined and half of it's what you actually do on the floor. And I think he's going to have an advantage in the what happens on the floor portion with the things that he can do.
Yep. So I'm not quite sure exactly how they're doing it, but
Devin has gotten into some sort of
I clicked on one thing and went to China. I'm like, I don't know what's going on right now.
Something's gone horribly wrong.
But either way, the most like last year, Anthony Davis got, and he definitely deserved it last year with the game he had, and he's definitely on LeBron's team this year. So he's definitely an opportunity. There's so many stars in this game; it's really hard to pick one dude. It's the All-Star game, so it's like, well, you know what? This guy could really do it, but then he could have like 4 points. Didn't really care. So it's all about motivation.
I don't know if I'd really put down any money on who's going to win the All-Star game MVP. I don't think I'd really be betting.
I don't think I'd put any money on Love or Horford to win it. But
I don't think I'd put down any money on the All-Star game in general.
Yeah.
Dark horse for the MVP, Damian Lillard.
Dollar Dame.
Well, see, that's a dude that he's felt like he's been snubbed the past few years, so I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out there and he fires up a lot of shots and tries to go after it too.
The mini Curry on Curry's team.
I think you could get into a Russell Westbrook, Damian Lillard just firing up shots.
That could be fun.
Situation for about 5 minutes.
And you saw that with Westbrook saying some guys who've been complaining they're not in the All-Star game getting in the All-Star game this year, kind of a shot at Lillard, so maybe they go back and forth. And of course, the pettiness of the NBA, you got to have that in the All-Star game because why not? It's entertaining.
My question is, does a single shot in this game end up anything other than a dunk or a three?
I hope not.
No, good question. Maybe Al Horford might take a mid-range shot or a layup. Let's see.
Oh, Aldridge's taking a mid-range shot. We all know Aldridge.
Yeah, he's taking a fadeaway mid-range shot or something.
So definitely an opportunity
Porzingis
there.
might do that too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Hey, I love Porzingis. He's going to knock down some triples there in this game because, of course, why not? Will Westbrook throw Durant and Oop in transition to dunk on Curry? Well,
it's a good question. I think anything's possible in the All-Star game. You never know.
Yeah. So, anything else you guys want to talk about the All-Star game or anything in NBA in general?
If that happened, Twitter would explode.
My question is, how many more years in a row is it going to be? If they keep this format, is it going to be LeBron against Steph Curry?
It's definitely interesting.
It's going to be at least a couple.
For sure. Even if his play declines a little bit, he's still going to be leading in votes because people love the guy so much.
Yeah, and of course the dunk contest is going to be on Saturday. They haven't announced the participants yet. So it'll be interesting to see who can dunk in there. Who did you guys like to see in the dunk contest now this year? Like any names that jump out there? I know Giannis for me jumped out there.
Absolutely.
Because he's just so freakishly long and athletic. He might be able to do some creative stuff because he is so long, and he's done it from like the free throw line during games.
Well, yeah,
so
I think
you see what he does in a practice.
You look at what Dwight Howard did a while back. Was normally the dunk contest is for the three kind of position, and Dwight Howard came in as a big man and put on a show, and so I think that's the kind of thing that I like to look for is with Giannis would be the same way, would be the guy that's just super long and shows up and puts on a show.
Yeah, I like to see young guys in the dunk contest, people that kind of want to put their name out there a little more. So I wouldn't mind seeing someone like Donovan Mitchell or something in there from the Jazz.
Yeah, he'd be nice.
I think he'd be a solid pick. And, a lot of people, they don't really watch Utah basketball, so they don't really know about him that much. And I think that'd be one way to get his name out there even more than it is now.
Dennis Smith Jr. for the Mavericks.
Dennis Smith Jr., that's another good one, too.
I want a 41-year-old Vince Carter.
Yeah. I think everyone wants a 41-year-old
One
Vince
thing
Carter.
with the dunk contest, I like seeing guys that aren't necessarily your 6'11", 7-foot guys. So getting a Donovan Mitchell in there that's only about 6'3".
Mm-hmm.
I like watching a little bit of the shorter guys get up there, up in the air.
Show the
Do we have anybody that's
Yeah.
5'7"? Can we get a Spud Webb again? No.
I don't really think Isaiah Thomas after this hip injury could do it. We'll see though. I know he could before a little bit. He had a little bit of mini hops, but I don't really think he does right now.
But the only thing that I guess Giannis could do is maybe get a large truck out there and have him just jump over
Yeah.
the cab. That's the only thing Giannis could do at this point.
Get a
'cause he's just
semi
so-
or something.
He's got such long arms he can just reach over the back of the backboard and jump from the other side.
Oh, so you just the possibilities are endless when you have a wingspan that's like 8 foot long. So
147,000 feet.
Yeah, we'll have him jump over from the backside of the basket or something and just fly over
Yeah.
and they jam it
Yeah.
on someone.
all right, we're gonna take a break from the All-Star game and their festivities. Also, of course, you'll have the 3-point contest, the skills challenge is always kind of interesting. Usually a better competition than the actual game is because
Yeah.
you guys see the guys at their apex of their skills instead of just playing minimal defense and just highlight real dunks.
Yeah.
And long 3-pointers in the football game, in the basketball game. Sorry.
And there might be a football game might break out. You can never be too sure here.
So we're going to take a break, and we come back. We'll talk about some of the problems that some of the teams in the NBA are having, mainly the Cavaliers. Next here on the Weekend Sports Kickoff. As we are back here for the Weekend Sports Kickoff, Devin Albertson, Ryan Elliott, Jacob Blair, and Noah Cooper here for the final segment of the show. As we're talking a little bit more about the NBA and what's going wrong in the Eastern Conference with a team out of Cleveland, Ohio. Right now,
That's never a good start. A team
No.
out of Cleveland, Ohio is never a place you want to start in the sports world.
they've won 3 of their last 10 games. There's that as probably the one positive. They're not
Poor
good right
Cleveland.
now. A mess. They've had a team meeting. People yelling at Kevin Love, not thinking he's actually sick. I don't know if he's sick or not, but if he wasn't sick, I'm skipping a game. And
Kevin Love just
Back
looks
and
easy
forth.
to yell at.
yes, he does.
A lot of personnel issues.
Yes, it's a talented roster that's like mixed and matched. That just doesn't fit well. So I'm not sure. They play Indiana tonight. They don't play well versus Indiana. Have they even beaten Indiana this year? I don't think
I
so.
think they're 0-3 against Indiana.
That's
so
not
I know
good.
at least 0-2, but I'm pretty positive 0-3.
I'm seeing 0-2. They've both been close games, but they've lost both when they get at home this time. Both of the other games have been on the road, so hopefully the Cavs can figure something out here.
And how long has it been since the Cavs were in the negative in point differential this late in the year?
They're negative right now?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
my.
crazy.
109.5, 109.6.
Well, it's
Hey,
crazy
not
because
great.
we normally see this happen, but just in the month of January, normally like the last couple of years, you'll see. I know last year they had a losing record in January. They were like, I don't know, like 7-8 or something like that. But this is like a whole nother level of losing. Like it's not even close to compared to what Cleveland's done in the past.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on right now with Cleveland. Just a lot of issues right there. It's not like LeBron's playing bad right now. He's still putting up numbers and playing good basketball. It's just not fitting. They're not playing any defense whatsoever.
Well, yeah, I think it starts on the defensive end. They're only behind the Kings in defensive average.
You don't want to be in the same category as bad as the Kings in this area.
Yeah, that's for sure. They're with the Kings. They're with the Bucks. They're with the Magic. They're with the Hawks in terms of bad defensive teams, and it all starts on that end. They just got Isaiah Thomas back, who obviously that doesn't really help on the defensive end at all. And they have the oldest roster in the NBA too. So when you got players that can't switch off pick and rolls as good as they used to, when you got Tristan Thompson, who isn't the same player he used to be on the defensive end, you're going to have some issues.
Also, I stand correctly. They are 0-3 versus Indiana. They lost earlier this year by 17. So yeah, they're 0-3. They're trying to get at least one win versus Indiana tonight. As they're playing at 7:30. Not on national TV, though. So that's just one thing they have to get figured out before playoffs hit, because you want a decent seed going into the playoffs. You want to be in contention to at least be have more home teams in one of the series you play in the Eastern Conference. As Noah said before the end of the break, they're only 3 games up on the 8 seed Milwaukee right now. That's not quite where you want to be as a 3 seed Cleveland. You should be up there competing with Toronto and Boston. Boston, of course, 6.5 games above Cleveland, and then Toronto's only a game and a half behind Boston. So right now, Cleveland just kind of being left behind. They're just really struggling right now.
And if this trend continues, you start to wonder more and more if the losing continues, if LeBron James is indeed going to be gone during the offseason, if he's going to find another place to go, whether that be L.A., whether that be Houston, whether it be New York, one of those teams. It begs the question whether he's going to be leaving this offseason.
It does look like the window's closing in Cleveland, like for sure this year, if maybe next year. But that window's closing with how old their roster is. There's not a lot of pieces that look like they can maybe bring in that are younger right now. So it's a good question.
Yeah.
I think at some point you got to step back if you're LeBron and go, guys, we're closer to 8 than we are to 1 right now. That's not where we want to be. We're supposed to be the best team in the world. What's happening?
Mm-hmm.
Where is the problem? And right now, I don't really know that LeBron's doing that.
Yeah, and see, if you're the best player in the world like LeBron James is, questionable or arguable, I should say, but if you're the best player in the world, you should be the trendsetter. You should be the leader
Absolutely.
in the locker room. You should be the one on defense really being the leader out on the court to get your teammates to do what they're supposed to do.
And to me, it feels like LeBron's just kind of sitting around being mad right now, and he's not stepping up and saying, we got to fix this. And instead, he's going, oh, boy, man, you guys.
Is it possible LeBron doesn't know what's wrong?
I'm sure it is.
He just kind of threw his hands up like, I don't know what to do at this point. I'm just going to play,
but I think
play angry and just
if you're the best
do what I
player in the
do.
world, you've got to take the initiative to, instead of throwing your hands up and going, what in the world's going on, you've got to say, okay, we've got to figure this out.
Is it possibly a tactic by LeBron? Because we know he is very mind game, is very passive aggressive in his nature. Like, I'm a big LeBron fan, but he is extremely passive aggressive. It's the one knock that you have on him, where he's trying to send a message to the front office like, hey, we need more help, so I'm going to pout and we're going to play awful until you decide that, hey, we need more help. Is that one of the things where he didn't want to fix it yet? He wants to wait till after the trade deadline so they do get a new piece in, they can fix it then. And then like, oh, look at that, LeBron was right, they need a new piece. And then it looks like that instead of him just being this way long-term. Might be just a short-term thing to try to send a message to try to get a trade to get a piece in to Cleveland.
I think as a front office, you got to hope that that's not the case, because that's not what you want in your star player.
And it happens every year.
And I know, but
well, one of the biggest issues if they want to get a trade is the players that they want to make available, like Shumpert or Thompson, other teams don't want. They're on huge contracts. They're both LeBron's agent is the agent for both of those players too, and LeBron got them a lot of money after they won the championship, so they're on horrible contracts. So no teams are gonna want to trade for those players. And I mean that's a major issue right there. You've heard talks about they might want to bring in George Hill, but really, how much is George Hill going to help? He might help a little bit on defense, but is it going to be enough? Probably not. We'll see. But I mean, overall, there's not really that many players they could bring in for what they have.
Yeah, it's a mess right now in Cleveland. Their defense is so hard to watch. Like, they could do stuff on offense. Like, they have the offensive talent to score with anybody, but just defensively, they're so bad. They're letting up over 109 points per game this year. It's just not good. Look at a team like Boston. They're only allowing 98, which is by far the best in the Eastern Conference this year. But at least they play a little bit of defense. They struggle to score at times, but they can play defense. Only the Spurs and the Celtics are allowing under 100 points per game this year, as the offense has definitely went up and up here in the NBA over the past couple of years, to this point where even bad teams like Dallas, who struggle to score, scores over 100 points a game. So in the Western Conference, of course, right now the seeding would be Warriors, Rockets, Spurs, Timberwolves, Thunder, Pelicans, Trailblazers, and Nuggets. The Thunder, they're playing a little better now after that early slide in the beginning of the season. Looks like Westbrook, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony are trying to find their roles, but with the team, of course, Steven Adams controlling the middle there. He's been fun to watch this year. And they play real defense there in Oklahoma City. They're allowing 101 points per game, which is pretty good in the NBA compared to the current standards. So they could be a threat come the playoff times. They get that 5 seed. They play a young Minnesota team, then possibly Golden State in the second round.
Yeah, they got a nice little 6-game win streak going out there in Oklahoma City. And I've really liked how they've turned it around. I mean, I think this is something that we've all kind of expected. I know I did coming into the season that they might struggle a little bit early. And I think they struggled more. Like they struggled more into the season than I thought they would, but they've really turned it around. And I think they're like 8 over 500 right now, so that's not too bad for the Thunder. They're sitting in a good spot, and they have room to move up to even up to possibly the 3rd seed by the end of the season.
And the crazy thing about the expectations right now is actually Cleveland still has a better winning percentage than Oklahoma City, but the two teams where they're perceived as supposed to be, and they're both going in definitely opposite directions right now. Is Cleveland going downhill and Oklahoma City going uphill at this moment. Say in the Western Conference, is there any one of these teams that could realistically take down the Warriors in the playoffs?
I think the Rockets are the only team that I think the Rockets are definitely the biggest threat to the Warriors. You saw they've already beat the Warriors twice this season. And one of the most interesting stats that I like to hear is that Chris Paul, James Harden, and Clint Capella, when they all played together, they're 19-0. They haven't lost all season. So I think that's a big takeaway you can take from the Rockets, is that when those 3 players are playing, the Rockets are firing on all cylinders.
So the Spurs right now, they're kind of a mess with Kawhi Leonard and just kind of everything that's going on there. I'm not sure all the details going on in San Antonio, but it seems like his leg injury is acting up longer than it's supposed to, and then the Spurs, it's just a miscommunication between him and Kawhi Leonard, between Popovich. What do you think is going on down there in San Antonio?
Popovich is being Greg Popovich and not telling us anything about anything right now. A lot of it could be people blowing stuff out of proportion. A lot of it could be people saying, a lot of it could be people saying, oh, boy, this could be the end for Kawhi and the Spurs. In all reality, the way Greg Popovich coaches, the Spurs are going to be in it. That's the way they play. The Spurs are going to be around. They may not be the number one threat to take down the Warriors like we're talking about with the Rockets, but they're going to be around. They're going to be there come later rounds of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean the Spurs are definitely they're probably going to win their first round game no matter who they play. Whether it's the Pelicans, the Blazers, the Nuggets, the Clippers, either one of those teams, the Spurs are going to be winning that series. Especially with the way LaMarcus Aldridge has played this season, I don't think anyone's really been able to stop him. And it comes out of surprise. Like players are coming out of nowhere for the Spurs. Whether it's Bertans, whether it's Murray. Yeah, they've had some great young guys that they're really grooming to fit well under Popovich's system. But I think with Kawhi Leonard, one of the major things was it was just a classic case of a misdiagnosed injury, and the injury seems like it's going to be a lot worse than we had originally thought. And it's just not good. It's just not good with Kawhi Leonard. It sounds like he might not even play the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely there with Kawhi with that nagging injury. Also, Popovich last week when they played Cleveland, LeBron James surpassed his 30,000 career point mark on Tuesday. They asked Popovich before the game, and Popovich says it's a really awesome achievement, but what else can you say about LeBron? We haven't said it many times before. Just a great, great competitor and great player. They asked him if the Spurs can hold him under 6 points. He needed 7 to reach the milestone. There on Tuesday, he said, while Kawhi Leonard's out, Kyle Anderson got the job, Popovich said, so I gave him the over-under. If he holds them within the standard deviations, we've got the analytics guy trying to figure out what the standard deviation is. So I think if he scored less than 10, then Kyle keeps that position forever, kind of like a Lou Gehrig thing. So Popovich trying to make it. Anderson did not do that, so he did not get the job forever for Popovich.
Popovich is always this subtly funny guy. Like when Shaq went to Phoenix, when on the first time they played Shaq with the Hack-a-Shaq, that was great. Pop is always this subtly funny guy.
And LeBron that game had 28 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists. So I don't think Kyle Anderson got the Lou Gehrig treatment there, where he keeps it forever, because that's a tough assignment.
He's giving it his best effort out here. Right?
Kyle Anderson tried, and he did put up.
I don't know that Kawhi Leonard
double.
would have done much better, to be honest.
Yeah, at this point. So, but the Spurs did get the win in that game, beat the Cavaliers by 12 because the Cavs couldn't stop the Spurs. Surprise. In the Eastern Conference, what do you guys think? Is Cleveland still coming out of the East, or do you guys think someone like Boston or Toronto could possibly shake things up there in the Eastern Conference?
Well, at this very moment, and I've never said this before, I've never believed in this team before, but I really think the Raptors at this point they have the best chance at they have the best chance at overtaking the Cavs and the Celtics in the Eastern Conference. Their team's really gelled together well the last few years. They've had a lot of preparation to get to this point where they are right now. And the Celtics, they still have a young team. You're starting to see they're hitting a little wall. They're 6-4 in their last 10. I think they just had a 4-game losing streak after they just beat the Clippers. And yeah, I just really like the Raptors as the best team to come out of that group.
I agree with you. I really do like the Raptors. Third in points per game in the league, 9th in points allowed. That's a good combination. If you're Toronto, you look at
the formula.
Yeah, and I think this might finally be the year that Toronto takes it over the top. They've had that talent for a while, and they've got a chance now to take advantage of it.
If you look at the roster, of course, you got DeMar DeRozan, who's a starter in the All-Star game, Kyle Lowry, who's a backup. The other guys who are in the rotation quite a bit, Ibaka, DeLon Wright, OG Anunoby from Indiana, of course, Giannis and Valanciunas, Skyrim, of course, CJ Miles. They have a lot of guys there who play quite a few minutes for them who do a decent job. One thing I worry about with Toronto is when they do get into a playoff series, it just seems like DeRozan and Lowry for like 4 games shoot like 20% from the field. And it's like, what just happened to these two guys who are like on the year, like DeMar is averaging almost 25 a game and Lowry's averaging 17. Then they'll drop the playoffs for like 15 and 7. It's like, what is going on with you two? You guys are scoring combined with DeMar scored in the regular season, and their offense just goes stale because no one else is used to scoring. and then they just kind of fall apart. So I'm still a little weary on Toronto just because of that fact. They haven't proven in the playoffs against a good team that they can keep that up. And they always play in the first round. They play some average team, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, look at this series went 7 series for absolutely zero reason. So which this year's be the 76ers.
Yeah. I think the fact that Cleveland isn't on top at the moment opens it up for a few more teams. If it were going to come down to, okay, Cleveland's the number 1 seed, then your thought is
with 4 home games in the series.
Okay,
yeah,
your thought is it's Cleveland. Now you look at Boston, the number 1 seed, isn't the same concept. If it comes down to if Cleveland was the number 1 seed, if it came down to Cleveland in the conference finals, it was Cleveland, no doubt. Mm-hmm. In this situation, if it comes down to Boston in the conference finals, the other team's got a chance. Mm-hmm. Boston's got some flaws that you can exploit, and I think that's a difference in what happens when Cleveland's not sitting on top of the Eastern Conference or even the 2nd seed.
Every year we wait come playoff time for Cleveland to get an uptick in performance. We know they
turn on the on switch again.
I don't see that necessarily happening this season. With the way this team's playing, it's just not good right now. And I really look at Boston being right now the favorite. With the way Jason Tatum's been playing this season, he's just going to keep getting better. And then there's that wild card in Boston where the progression of Gordon Hayward's recovery, I've been paying a little bit attention to that. It's questionable, but he might be on pace to come back just in time for the playoffs. And that's, I think, a wild card in Boston that if he's ready to come back, I know just a couple of days, about 4 or 5 days ago, he's
that could throw a wrench into it.
Shooting on the court. So.
Well, I think
his progression in recovery, I think, has gone a little bit faster than what people thought, and he could be back for the playoffs.
I think another issue for Cleveland is that if they end up with the 3 seed, they've only got home field advantage for 1 round.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you don't have a chance to build that momentum in Cleveland that you've had in the past
and then
as the 1 or 2 seed.
And you're going to have a tough second round matchup too. You're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to face like Indiana or the Heat or something in the second round.
Yeah, if it ends the way it is, you're going to end up with Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if you talk about Boston and some of their flaws, if you're trusting an 18 and 19-year-old or 19 and 20-year-old to stop LeBron in the playoff series, I question some of that thinking. And Jaylen Brown, I know he's a second-year player, but he's more of a rookie because he didn't play a whole lot last year with the logjam they had for forwards. He played more when it comes to the playoff time, so he's still hitting his first full season of being a starter and playing a lot of minutes this year. And he's hit a wall at the same time that Tatum has for Boston. And of course, I don't really trust Al Horford in the playoff series versus LeBron because we saw every time he goes up against a LeBron-led team that he can't. They did maybe a game in a series. I mean, he's won 1 game in 5 playoff series against LeBron James, and then I don't think LeBron loses to Kyrie in a playoff series because. That whole scenario between those two, I don't see Kyrie just taking it to LeBron in this playoff series. Maybe I'm wrong. It's definitely possible.
Well, yeah. Here's the deal. When it comes down to it, you get one-on-one. You get Kyrie, you get LeBron. Who you taking? You're taking LeBron.
And when it comes to a playoff series like this, you get to the playoffs where it matters more, and you have to beat LeBron 4 times in 2 weeks, in whatever amount of games it is, in 7 games or whatever it is. And that's just going to be hard for me to wrap my mind around anybody doing that, even as bad as Cleveland plays, 'cause I've seen them reboot in the past. Even if this is a new low, they probably won't get to another high. I don't think they're going to beat Golden State or Houston in a final series, but they can get to the finals, I think. And if they do have to play a team like the bottom 3 seeds in the East right now are not easy matchups with Washington, Philly, and Milwaukee. They all have a lot of talent there, and guys, especially with Philadelphia and Milwaukee, who can match up with LeBron with Simmons and Giannis. And then, of course, Washington has Beal and Wall there, who will absolutely torch the Cleveland front court if they get that series.
And this could be the year that a lower seed makes a run. Mm-hmm. This could be. I mean, each of those 3 teams that you mentioned has the talent to take a shot. Yeah, they're young, and I mean that's the worry you have with those teams, and that's obviously what they've shown, and the reason they're not the top 3 seeds. Instead, they're the bottom 3 seeds. But if they get hot at the right time, all of a sudden, one of those lower seeds has the opportunity to make a run.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about the Raptors being the favorite in my eyes, but I also wouldn't be super surprised if Joel Embiid plays in all those games and they happen to play the Sixers in the first round if the Sixers pull the upset.
Trust the process,
So
baby.
I think anything can happen out in the East. I really wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and then, of course, right now the 4-5 series would be Miami versus Indiana. That's an interesting series back and forth. I think might take Indiana in that series to win it, actually. I think Oladipo is just playing really well right now. I know Miami with Whiteside.
Miles Turner on the Pacers, he's been out a lot of the season, so I think the Pacers could even turn it up another notch.
And with Miami not having Deion Waiters anymore, he's out for the season. That's definitely a lack there. Teams can also, there's a 2-game split between the 4 and the 8 seed right now in the East, and only a 3-game between the 3 and the 8. So a lot of stuff can still move right now in the Eastern Conference to go back and forth. So what are we watching this weekend? Let's go with that. We got 2 minutes left to go in the show. TV's shut off. All the cameras died. We're on radio only right now. What are you guys watching this weekend? We'll start with you, Noah. What's going on this weekend in your sports world?
Well, to be honest, I don't really know what NBA games are
Pro
going
Bowl
on this
24/7?
weekend, but yeah, I don't know if I'll be watching too much of the Pro Bowl. I might check it out for a quarter or two. We'll see. Well, I'm a big Bulls fan. They're playing the Lakers, I see tonight, so I'll definitely be paying attention to that. I pretty much watch every Bulls game, so I'll definitely
You poor
be watching
guy.
that.
You poor guy.
You know, it hasn't been that bad. A lot of the games this year have been really close. It's either they win or they lose down the stretch, and if they win, good for them. And if they lose, it's just one step closer to a worse draft pick. So I like it either way. It's been fun.
You also got Rockets Pelicans tonight if you want on ESPN at 7 o'clock, so that could be a pretty fun match with a couple stars there in that game. Anything else this weekend that jumps out to you? Saturday, there's Celtics-Warriors in Golden State.
Good matchup. And Celtics won the first time, too, so...
On Sunday, you got 76ers at Thunder. So a lot of decent matchups this past week. And they're doing a nice job of putting these throughout the schedule. That way we have good games about every night. You can find an NBA game that's definitely worth watching. And when are they going to announce all the skill competition stuff for the NBA? When do they usually announce that?
Usually it's pretty random. They just announce it as soon as you get closer to the event. They just come out with the people that they selected. So it's pretty random, though.
Okay, what about you, Jacob?
See, this is the point of the show where I end up on the same side of the hiring-firing line as Trevor, because I am this weekend watching the 24 Hours of Daytona, a 24-hour endurance race at Daytona International Speedway.
Trevor's not here, so we can support that.
That's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
It's a sports car race that starts at 2:30 on Saturday, runs all night long until 2:30 on Sunday. Grueling test.
I like fast cars,
so that's what I'm watching this weekend.
Nothing wrong with that.
You gotta perfect your left turn.
Yeah, I got.
They go both right and left in sports car racing.
They do.
I like going fast. That's
I like
fun.
going fast.
I've got a couple of things. One being, it looks at the moment anyway like Tiger Woods is going to make the cut at the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines. He finished with a second round 71 to be at 1 under, which is the projected cut line. So it'll be interesting to see how he can last in the final 2 rounds of a tournament, to see if he can make it through all 4 rounds, to see how he can do in the weekend. And Torrey Pines is not an easy place to play. He's had a lot of great history at Torrey Pines, but it's not an easy course. And the other thing, I'm going to have to watch Kansas and Texas A&M on Saturday, support my Jayhawks, and also Saturday afternoon from Bearcat Stadium, you can hear me and Jenny James on the call for Northwest and Missouri Western, both the women's and the men's game. I'll have the play-by-play for you. Jenny will have the color, and we'll have a grand old time from Bearcat Arena.
Yep, be wide out there tomorrow. They'll have prizes and giveaways at the door for you if you're interested. One quick stat before we leave here. I want to ask you this question. Which team has attempted the most three-pointers from 28 to 35 feet before – don't look at my screen, you cheater.
I was just scooching up.
Who do you think has attempted the most? Attempted 178 threes between the way downtown range, 28 to 35 feet.
The way downtown range?
Yep.
Well, I'm assuming the Rockets are leading the league in overall three-pointers, so I'm just going to say them too. But it might surprise me, whoever this is. I don't know.
It is the Rockets.
Okay.
They are 70 more three-point attempts from that range than the next highest team in the Portland Trailblazers.
It doesn't surprise me at all.
So it's right there. The top teams got Houston, Portland, Indiana, Boston, Cleveland, and Golden State for the most three-pointers attempted from way downtown, with the top 3 all over 100 attempts from downtown. So nice little stat there that they always have. Of course, Houston, they shoot a crap ton of threes. Just so many threes. This weekend for me, I'll be going tonight. I'll be helping the good old wrestling thing get going. Make sure they're all set up for their first show of their existence. I guess their opening show. And then Saturday, I'll be going to the game for a little bit. I'll be making sure that Ryan and Jenny are switched over and ready to go for that game. And then I'm going to have to head out at halftime of the boys' game to get ready for my broadcast for 97.1 The Ville for the Northwest Missouri Tournament over in Burlington. As it's going to be East Atchison and Worth County for both the boys and girls championship game in that tournament. So I'll be calling those games over there. And then I'll probably be missing the Pro Bowl because I have something better to do on Sunday. And then, of course, I'll probably catch up some NBA games, maybe a little bit of college basketball this weekend. Kind of depends. I'll see if Mizzou can play decent for a little bit before I switch the channel. That's about it. for me this weekend. So that's going to be it for the weekend sports kickoff. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you check out all of our shows here on X106 with Dropping Dimes on Thursdays from 4 to 6, Friday Take on Friday mornings from 9 to 10. This show, Weekend Sports Kickoff, from 2 to 5, and then Good Old Wrestling from 8 to 10 p.m. on Friday. So we are done here from the Weekend Sports Kickoff.